861. Experienced fisherman. Zhang Shintong possessed the seven-colored divine light, making him virtually invincible at the same cultivation level. He could even exhaust a fellow disciple, senior brother Zhang, to death. He cultivated the profound life and death art, an incredibly mystical technique. It was said that reaching its deepest level would allow one to achieve the wondrous state of coexisting with life and death, attaining an alternative form of immortality. Practicing this art could awaken and infinitely amplify a cultivator's innate fear of life and death. It could make a naturally lazy cultivator like Zhang Shintong, facing the threat of death, seem like a completely different person, maximizing their proactivity. According to the original historical trajectory, Zhang Shintong wouldn't break through until his lifespan was nearing its end. But now he has advanced to foundation establishment ahead of time. What happened? The most severe period of the mutant immortal mortal miasma had passed, so it was certain that Zhang Shintong wasn't forced to break through due to that reason. Li Fan immediately became interested. However, as his main body was still in the process of devouring the five elements grotto heaven and couldn't free himself. This time, observing Zhang Shintong would have to be done by his incarnation, Ji Shaoli. He has only just broken through to the foundation establishment stage and hasn't had time to comprehend the seven-colored divine light. With my golden core cultivation, dealing with him shouldn't be a problem, Ji Shaoli thought to himself. However, to be on the safe side, the incarnation still made ample preparations. In the stage between foundation establishment and core formation, as long as one had enough contribution points to arm oneself, one could ignore the difference in cultivation and crush the opponent. Not to mention that his realm was currently a level higher than the opponent's. Therefore, Ji Shaoli wasn't overly worried. According to the information, Ji Shaoli arrived at a desolate small mountain on the northwestern frontier of Yongyan province via a teleportation array. There was a slightly dilapidated small temple on the mountain, where Zhang Shintong was living in seclusion. Originally, this Zhang Shintong was just an ordinary old man. Although he obtained half a scroll of the profound life and death art, by chance, he couldn't cultivate it successfully. It wasn't until his lifespan was about to end that he broke through the shackles under immense pressure and successfully stepped into the qi refining stage. After the qi refining stage, he lacked the motivation to cultivate further and simply spent the rest of his life in this small temple. He should have waited until his lifespan was nearing its end to break through again. But now he has advanced ahead of time. What is his foundation establishment treasure? Ji Shaoli didn't reveal his presence but concealed his aura, observing from a distance. In the small temple, besides Zhang Shintong, there was also a young Taoist boy of about 8 or 9 years old. What was excessive was that things like cleaning, cooking, and other chores could clearly be solved directly with spells. But Zhang Shintong insisted on having the young Taoist boy to them himself. This young Taoist boy was very good-looking, and his big eyes seemed to speak, bright and sparkling. But he was hard-working and did things very efficiently. His skillful manner didn't resemble that of a child at all. While the young Taoist boy handled everything in an orderly manner, Zhang Shintong simply sat by a pond in the backyard of the small temple, fishing. The young Taoist boy called out a few times without success and had to bring the prepared meal to Zhang Shintong. "Master, it's time to eat," the young Taoist boy said in a childish voice. "Shish, don't scare away my fish." The young Taoist boy pouted and started eating on his own. After waiting until the young Taoist boy was almost finished, Zhang Shintong's expression changed slightly. "It's hooked." He pulled the fishing rod sharply, but what he caught wasn't a fish. It was just a green ball of light. Zhang Shintong looked disappointed, but he still reached into the green ball of light and groped around for a while. After a short while, he took out a seemingly rusted disc-shaped magic artifact. Zhang Shintong examined it and shook his head slightly, throwing it directly to the young Taoist boy. The young Taoist boy seemed to be used to this and skillfully caught it. "Master, what's this time?" "Fire disc, it can release open flames. You won't need to use spells to make fire in the future," Zhang Shintong said lazily. He put away the fishing rod and began to devour the food. After foundation establishment, one no longer needs to eat like a mortal. But Zhang Shintong acted as if he was enjoying it immensely, eating heartily. In just a moment, he swept away all the food on the table. "Master is going to sleep for a while. Don't disturb me unless it's extremely important," Zhang Shintong instructed as he got up, humming a little tune. Okay, the young Taoist boy said helplessly. After snores echoed in the small temple, the young Taoist boy cleaned up all the kitchen waste and returned to the pond. He took out a fishing rod from somewhere and imitated Zhang Shintang's previous actions, starting to fish. But after a long time, there was no movement at all. The young Taoist boy couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. Master said that only those who are sincere can catch treasures from this pond. I've tried for several years, but I haven't been able to catch anything. Damn, she cast the line again, unwilling to give up. The result remained the same, the tip of the fishing rod was still empty. Only then did the young Taoist boy accept his fate and leave the pond dejectedly. Not long after, Ji Shaoli slowly revealed his figure. Interesting, he muttered, staring at the pond not far away. After setting up a layer of illusion around the area, he carefully examined the small pond. Under the observation of his divine sense, it was indeed an ordinary pond. No more than 10 feet deep, and no more than 30 feet long and wide. The scene inside the pond was also clear at a glance. Besides some fine floating matter, there were no fish living there at all. If he hadn't just witnessed Zhang Shintang fishing a green ball of light from this pond, Ji Shaoli would have almost been deceived. Since he couldn't see anything mysterious, Ji Shaoli simply flew into it, trying to find the secret of this pond. But, after entering the water, it was still no different from ordinary pond water. After returning to the shore, Ji Shaoli pondered for a moment, took out materials from his storage ring, and made a fishing rod. He learned from the previous appearance of the master and apprentice and began to fish. Sitting by the water, holding his breath and concentrating. A rod thrown out, but still, there was no change. Ji Shaoli sat for a long time, vaguely feeling that something was wrong, and put away the fishing rod. This pond, there are obviously some mysterious places. But it can only be invisible. Could it be that this pond only recognizes Zhang Shintang alone? After thinking for a moment, Ji Shaoli denied this guess. If that were the case, then the little Taoist boy wouldn't have tried it. Sincere, how can one be considered sincere? Fishing, Ji Shaoli was no stranger to it. Whether it was before the transmigration, or during the years as a grand tutor in Dazan. Whenever he was upset, he would go fishing. With the belief of never returning empty-handed, he would happily return only after the fish was hooked. However, since he started cultivating, he had never had this relaxing activity again. Sincere, Ji Shaoli seemed to understand something. This time, he sat by the pond again, no longer thinking about what to break the secret of the pond. Just wanting to simply catch a rod. Huff, Ji Shaoli looked solemn, and the fishing rod was thrown out suddenly. The next moment, the scene in front of him changed dramatically. First, update 1 chapter, there are 2 more chapters. 862, Fishing in the Starry Sky. What he saw was no longer a small pond, but a sky full of stars. Countless brilliant light clusters were hidden within. From the fleeting images within them, Ji Shaoli could vaguely see images of strange beasts, magical treasures, and even cultivators fighting. And Ji Shaoli was sitting above this starry sky, hanging down a strand of silk. The countless light clusters were like fish in a pond. First, they were startled and subconsciously fled. Then, feeling a little curious, they slowly approached. These light clusters were divided into different colors such as white, green, blue, purple, and orange. The white light clusters hardly revealed any special aura. But from green to orange, the pressure carried by the light clusters gradually increased. Even the golden and purplish golden light clusters that flashed across this starry sea contained an aura that shocked Ji Shaoli, who had seen the celestial venerable of longevity and the remains of a true immortal. What the hell is this? Even after 100 lifetimes of reincarnation, having seen many grand scenes. The scene unfolding before Ji Shaoli at this moment made him lose his mind instantly. His mind was extremely shaken, and his state of mind was lost. In an instant, he retreated from the state of fishing the starry sky. The starry sky disappeared, and what was before him was just an ordinary little pond. Ji Shaoli subconsciously clenched his fists and took a deep breath. With his extremely high vision, he realized at this moment that he might have found something incredible. With his temperament, it took him a long time to completely calm down. Once again, with the pure mentality of a fisherman, Ji Shaoli cast a rod. However, the scene before him did not change at all. Ji Shaoli gripped the fishing rod tightly, pondered slightly, and then recalled the scene of Zhang Shintang and his apprentice only casting a rod. It seems that there is a limit to the number of times within a certain time interval. Feeling a little regretful in his heart, he put away the fishing rod and removed the blindfold. And then lurked and spied from afar. In the small temple, the lives of the master and apprentice seemed to be the same. Every day, they only lived an ordinary life of eating, resting, and fishing. When Zhang Shintong fished again, he only caught a white light cluster and returned disappointed. After the little Taoist priest gained nothing again, it was finally Ji Shaoli's turn to take action. Taking a deep breath, as an experienced fisherman, he adjusted his mentality to the best. Then he cast a rod. In an instant, Ji Shaoli came to the endless starry sky again. Not the first time seeing this magnificent scene, he was already used to it. This time he finally maintained the state of fishing the starry sky. Fishing requires bait, so what is needed to catch these light clusters? Looking at Ji Shaoli, where most of the light clusters quickly moved away, leaving only a large blank area, he couldn't help but think. This place is obviously not within the scope of the Xuanwang realm, but a separate space. With only a bare fishing rod, Ji Shaoli's body was only a simple image. Naturally, there was no question of adding bait to the fishing rod. Could it be that it's just a matter of willingness to take the bait? Ji Shaoli couldn't help but think. Because he found that as time passed, it seemed that the light clusters had become accustomed to his fishing line and gradually began to approach. Some were even attracted and curiously touched it. When a white light cluster was instantly and firmly absorbed on the fishing line because it was too close. Ji Shaoli only felt the fishing rod sink down. Then he uncontrollably and subconsciously lifted it. The scene in front of him shattered, and he returned to the small temple in the mountains. Only, he had a white light cluster in his hand. This light cluster seemed to be a separate world. Divine sense could not penetrate it. Ji Shaoli imitated Zhang Shintong's previous actions, reached out his hand, and groped for a while. Finally, after taking out a dark green stone, the light cluster slowly dissipated. Now Ji Shaoli can definitely be regarded as knowledgeable. But after checking it, he found that he had never seen this kind of ore. Either it is an extremely rare variety, or it is not from the Xuanwang realm. White light clusters should be the lowest level in the starry sky. It shouldn't be so precious that I have never heard of it. So, my guess may be correct. Ji Shaoli's eyes flickered. This fishing pond should be a supreme treasure from other cultivation worlds. Even, it is very likely to be a fairy artifact from the fairy world. In the 115th life, at the end of his life, with the help of the medicine king True Cauldron, Li Fan, who rushed to the immortal ruins, once saw the remains of a true immortal. Therefore, he was able to feel the power of the immortal. However, at this moment, from the endless starry sky in this fishing pond, he once again felt the same power as the remains of the true immortal. Moreover, it was not just a wisp. Those purplish golden and dark golden light clusters that flashed by and flew quickly in the starry sky gave him the feeling that they were no less than true immortals. It shouldn't be my illusion. But even if there are some errors, the specifications of this fishing pond must be extremely high. A sharp light flashed in Ji Shaoli's eyes. He also remembered the rumors he had heard before. In the ancient Xuanwang realm, there were fairy artifacts. But when the catastrophe occurred, all the fairy artifacts and even the remains of immortals disappeared. Could it be that this fishing pond is a fairy artifact that was lucky enough to be left behind? Zhang Shintong, who has no background and is just immortal, was able to obtain life and death Zongong, and even supernatural powers such as the seven-colored divine light. Is it all because of this fishing pond? Ji Shaoli instantly understood the possible causes and consequences. This fishing pond is very special. It can only be discovered with the mentality of a fisherman. Perhaps this is why it has been completely preserved until now. Ji Shaoli's thoughts were surging, and the greed in his heart was also uncontrollably rising. But after all, his temperament was far superior to ordinary people, and he quickly suppressed his greed. Today's number of times has ended, and Ji Shaoli did not choose to act rashly, but still retreated temporarily. On the third day, after Zhang Shintong's master and apprentice once again gained nothing, Ji Shaoli cast a rod in front of the pond again, thinking that there might be power related to immortals in the fishing pond. His heart couldn't help but fluctuate for a while. But perhaps it was for this reason that this time, after entering the fishing starry sky for a moment, he was forced to be expelled. Ji Shaoli couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Then suddenly realized, those who seek treasures and try to explore secrets are all not allowed. Only a true fisherman can enter the starry sky. Ji Shaoli couldn't help but shake his head secretly after understanding. He had to wait for tomorrow to come. At the same time adjust their mentality. When the greed in his heart was completely suppressed, Ji Shaoli successfully entered again. This time, he cast the rod with extra care. The fishing line slowly drooped, and thousands of light clusters surged again. There is another chapter later, it should be around 2 o'clock. Brothers, go to sleep first, don't wait. 863. Treasure fishing pond, add 8,000 monthly tickets and more. Fish bite the bait because they want to feed. What do these balls of light seek? Sitting atop the endless starry sky, Ji Shaoli pondered this question. From a fleeting glimpse, one can see that within these balls of light, there should be items, cultivation methods, or perhaps divine powers and combat experience. This fishing pond is perhaps a celestial artifact that has set some kind of threshold, specifically for distributing rewards. His gaze swept over the white, cyan, blue, purple, and orange balls of light. Ji Shaoli thoughtful. The more valuable the item, the higher its level. Therefore, attracting them becomes more difficult. But right now, I only have a remnant of consciousness. Even if I want to catch those white balls of light, I can only rely on luck. Not to mention the higher level balls of light. Having tried many methods, Ji Shaoli still couldn't add bait to the descending fishing line. And his luck was truly bad. After a long time, not even a white ball of light was attracted to him. And in this starry sky, there seemed to be a time limit. The surrounding starlight grew dimmer, as if after layers of ripples dissipated, Ji Shaoli returned to the real world. This time, the fishing trip ended with an empty hook. Frustrated, Ji Shaoli immediately prepared to cast his line again. But he helplessly remembered that he only had one chance a day to activate the power of the fishing starry sky. He could only take a deep breath and wait for tomorrow to arrive. For the next 10 days, Ji Shaoli participated in one fishing trip each day. He only caught 6 balls of light in total. 5 white and 1 blue. The white balls of light only contained things like ores and spiritual herbs. They weren't of much value. But the blue ball of light contained a jade scroll. Tai Kong Jang Metal Sword Kia. Ji Shaoli carefully read the contents of the jade scroll. As expected, it's not a product of the profound yellow world. This Tai Kong Jang Metal Sword Kia came from the Tai world, a cultivation method of the divine sword sect. The situation in the Tai world was roughly the same as in the profound yellow world. However, there were 5 great cultivators who had cultivated to the peak and did not ascend to the immortal world, but instead transformed into the Tao with their bodies. They merged with the heavenly Tao of the Tai world and were called the Tai 5 Emperor Venerables by the cultivators of the Tai world. Tai Kong was one of these 5 Emperor Venerables. By borrowing the power of the Tai Kong Emperor Venerable, can the sword art be cultivated all the way to the Tao integration realm? How is it only blue quality? After reading through the contents of the Jade Scroll, Ji Shaoli couldn't help but feel a little surprised. It was only after he tried to cultivate this Tai Kong Jang Metal Sword Kia that he realized. It was a matter of adapting to local conditions. This sword art was a cultivation method specifically created based on the specific situation of the Tai world. The necessary condition for cultivation was the power of the Tai Kong Emperor Venerable. And in the profound yellow world, there was no such thing as Tai Kong at all. Therefore, this cultivation method naturally could not be cultivated. If it weren't for its Tao integration quality, it would probably be relegated to the white category. This fishing platform actually re-evaluates the value of items based on the surrounding environment. Ji Shaoli couldn't help but marvel to himself. Although it was almost equivalent to no harvest, Ji Shaoli was not angry. He observed Zhang Shintong's fishing process during these 10 days. After all, having been in contact with this fishing platform earlier than him, Zhang Shintong seemed to have mastered some tricks. 10 chances, not one was empty. Although it was only 8 white and 2 blue, it was still far better than Ji Shaoli. After thinking for a while, Ji Shaoli decided not to waste any more time. On this day, after Zhang Shintong had eaten and drunk his fill, he was preparing to go for a nap. But suddenly, his expression changed. A golden light sea, a half-copyright enveloped the entire small temple, including the fishing pond. Countless golden snake-like lightning bolts were forming in the sky. It seemed as if they would strike down in the next moment. Master! The little Taoist boy who was washing dishes paled in fright. Luli, quickly come behind me. Zhang Shintong grabbed the little Taoist boy and protected him behind him. At the same time, he took out a command flag and stuck it on the ground. Earth and yellow energy formed a sphere, enveloping the two of them. Which fellow Taoist is it? Could you come out and meet me? Perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Zhang Shintong said loudly. But Ji Shaoli saw clearly that although he said so, he had already quietly taken out a wooden sword in his hand. Even though his realm was higher than the opponent's, Ji Shaoli still felt a trace of fatal crisis from this small sword. Ji Shaoli didn't show himself, but said coldly, "Fellow Taoist Zhang, if you don't want the matter of the fishing pond to become known to the world, I advise you not to resist. Actually, I don't have any malicious intentions. It's just that as a fisherman, I am also very curious about it." As soon as these words came out, Zhang Shintong completely lost his composure. His biggest secret had been exposed, and Zhang Shintong felt a burst of panic in his heart. The expression on his face constantly changed, and in the end, he still put away the wooden sword. Since that's the case, please come out and meet me. What's the point of hiding your head and showing your tail? He said in a deep voice. Fellow Taoist, I don't know how many treasures you have obtained from that fishing pond. How can I not be careful? Ji Shaoli was not moved by his words. Instead, he asked about the method to catch higher quality balls of light. Don't even think about deceiving me, I know your harvest these 10 days very well, Ji Shaoli said in a teasing tone. Zhang Shintong's heart completely sank. The other party had been watching him almost completely for so many days. And he was completely unaware of it. This was enough to show that the other party's strength must be far superior to his own. His strength had already overwhelmed him, but he was still so cautious and careful. Zhang Shintong could not help but curse inwardly. Helpless, he had to tell the insights he had summarized himself. On the fishing platform, the more times you cast the line, the stronger the connection you have with it. Perhaps there were other ways to directly increase the connection in the past. But now, you can only rely on the number of times and time to slowly grind it. When the connection is strengthened to a certain extent, you can use your own intent as bait to attract the surrounding balls of light. The balls of light seem to have spirituality and can sense the content in the intent bait. Zhang Shintong honestly confessed. Ji Shaoli carefully listened while distinguishing the truth from his words. You don't have to worry about me deceiving you, you'll know once you try it yourself. From the day I discovered the secret of this fishing pond, I knew that it was impossible for me to monopolize it forever. Zhang Shintong sighed deeply. It's just a pity that this fishing pond seems to be integrated with the heaven and earth and is fixed here. It's impossible to move or take it away. Otherwise Zhang Shintong said helplessly. I only hope that you spare Lulia's life. It's better to kill me if you want to. He pleaded. At this time, Ji Shaoli finally revealed his figure. Fellow Taoist Zhang, you should put away your magic weapon. I don't mean to monopolize the secret here either. Zhang Shintong's face showed a suspicious look. However, he still secretly held a purple gold gourd in his hand and did not let go. 864. Earn magical powers with clever words. Ji Shaoli spoke eloquently. If I'm not mistaken, the treasures that each person can obtain from this fishing pond are relatively independent and do not affect each other. In other words, you and I are not in a life or death competition. That's the first point. Furthermore, we have a common goal, which is that the fewer cultivators who know the secret of this fishing pond, the better. Fellow Taoist Zhang, do you think you can guard this secret with your strength alone? Today I can discover the abnormality here. Someday, other cultivators will also be able to discover it. Can you stop them? Ji Shaoli stared intently at Zhang Shintong, asking without the slightest politeness. Zhang Shintong could only remain silent. However, with our help, the risk of being discovered by other cultivators can be greatly reduced. It's even possible to occupy this treasure forever. Ji Shaoli said with a smile. Zhang Shintong's expression finally changed. After hesitating for a long time, he dejectedly put away the purple gold gourd in his hand and said helplessly, Fellow Taoist, come down and talk. At this moment, the sense of crisis that had been lingering in Ji Shaoli's heart completely disappeared. Fellow Taoist Zhang, is this purple gold gourd also fished out of the fishing pond? Ji Shaoli asked, his eyes flashing. But he did not approach. Zhang Shintong smiled wryly. I've been guarding this fishing platform for most of my life, and I've only fished out this treasure. Primordial purple gold gourd, purple quality. I don't know which cultivation world created it, but it contains primordial energy. With a single thought, the primordial energy can be transformed into a flying knife to defend against enemies. It is said that even a transformation god cultivator can be instantly killed. It's just a pity. Zhang Shintong shook his head slightly. This is only in other cultivation worlds. In our Xuanwang world, cultivators above the nascent soul stage reside in the heavens and earth. If the heavens and earth do not perish, the cultivator will not fall. This primordial purple gold gourd is not so powerful. His words revealed the reason why he had not easily chosen to attack. Under the blessing of the power of many protective treasures, the aura that Ji Shaoli exuded had far exceeded the scope of a golden core cultivator. Zhang Shintong was unsure of his true cultivation level and did not have the confidence to kill him with one blow. And hearing that Ji Shaoli might have an organization behind him, he could only give up. Fellow Taoist Zhang, how many years have you discovered the mystery of this fishing pond? Ji Shaoli finally descended from the clouds at this time. A trace of memory flashed in Zhang Shintong's eyes. I don't remember very clearly either. It was when I was young. Time flies. Ji Shaoli was observing the Taoist child, Luli, who was being protected behind Zhang Shintong, without showing any emotion. With a delicate appearance like a porcelain doll. Wearing a wide Taoist robe, at first glance, it was impossible to tell the gender. At this moment, Luli poked out a head, not showing much fear in her eyes. She just glared fiercely at Ji Shaoli with puffed cheeks. This little doll, Zhang Shintong said with a fake smile, just an adopted mortal orphan. Just then, Luli widened her eyes and looked up at Zhang Shintong in shock. Master, didn't you say that I was also fished out of this pond? Woo woo. Before she could finish speaking, Zhang Shintong covered her mouth in regret. Ha 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 ha. Ji Shaoli laughed loudly, then suddenly stopped. He looked at Zhang Shintong with a murderous aura. If fellow Taoist Zhang insists on doing so, then don't blame me for being merciless. Lin Ling. Luli also knew that she had caused trouble, and immediately stopped struggling. Zhang Shintong did not blame her. He just touched the little Taoist child's head, constantly comforting the tearful Luli. The two sides confronted each other for a while. As a figure appeared in the sky, the pressure of a Hidao descended. Zhang Shintong's face was extremely pale, and he sighed, finally becoming honest. Little Luli, I did indeed fish her out of the fishing pond. At first, it was just a transparent fruit like Luli. I was just about to eat her when I faintly heard the cry of a baby from within. Zhang Shintong, who had given up resisting, sat down on the ground and slowly narrated. Lin Ling was very curious about this beautiful little Taoist child, and her divine sense constantly swept over her body. And this little girl actually felt it, and glared back at Lin Ling unwillingly. The two stared at each other, neither willing to give in. This scene made Zhang Shintong laugh and cry, and the anxiety in his heart disappeared. When the other party showed the strength of Hidao, he felt despair. However, judging from the actions of this Hidao Immortal Venerable, it seemed that the situation was not as bad as he had imagined. At this time, Ji Shaoli also walked to the fishing pond. With his back to Zhang Shintong, he slowly said, I am not a person who likes to kill. I don't want to create unnecessary killings unless it is absolutely necessary. However, the secret of the fishing pond must not be leaked. Fellow Taoist Zhang, you have two choices now. One is to sacrifice yourself. If so, I promise you that I will guarantee this little doll's life without worry. As for the second, Zhang Shintong narrowed his eyes, listening to Ji Shaoli's words deliberately paused. That is to join our Myriad Realms Union. As long as we are all one family, then there is no need to worry about any secrets being leaked. Myriad Realms Union. Listening to this completely unfamiliar name, Zhang Shintong was a little stunned for a while. However, with a Hidao cultivator sitting in charge, it must be absolutely not simple. Zhang Shintong, who had no choice at all, quickly agreed readily. I am willing to join you. Good. Fellow Taoist Zhang is indeed aware of the situation. Ji Shaoli applauded and praised. Lin Ling, he shouted again. Lin Ling looked at Ji Shaoli, and then pointed lightly towards the sky. Afterward, a blurred image of a faceless stone statue appeared above Zhang Shintong's head. Although he couldn't see the appearance of the stone statue, Zhang Shintong suddenly felt a chill down his spine. In the fishing pond, facing the star-like light clusters every day. He had formed an almost intuitive ability to identify the level of items. Zhang Shintong could almost see at a glance that this stone statue must be of great origin. As expected, he heard Ji Shaoli say respectfully, "This is the red dust compassionate true immortal statue. All those who join the union must recite the oath in front of the stone statue." As he spoke, an oath of more than 200 words was transmitted to Zhang Shintong's mind. True immortal. Zhang Shintong's heart trembled. Could it be that behind this myriad realms union? Zhang Shintong didn't dare to think about it. From the fishing platform, he had seen too many items from different cultivation worlds. He was very sure of the real existence of the immortal realm that was above all cultivation worlds. With an extremely solemn expression, Zhang Shintong recited the oath of joining the union in front of everyone. The process seemed extremely long, and the oath seemed to contain mysterious and incomparable energy. 865. The Principles of Fishing. After finishing the recitation, Zhang Shintong felt a heaviness in his heart, as if an invisible shackle had been added. Ha ha ha, good. Ji Shaoli, at that moment, seemed relieved of a heavy burden, instantly retracting all the magical treasures protecting him, appearing completely defenseless. This further convinced Zhang Shintong that the oath of membership must contain some kind of restrictive power. Now that fellow Taoist Zhang has joined, how about the little girl, Luli, joining as well? Ji Shaoli said with a beaming smile. Although it was a suggestion, the tone left no room for refusal. Zhang Shintong had no choice but to signal Luli to comply. There was no need for a special telepathic message. Having only heard Zhang Shintong recite it once, Luli had already memorized the entire oath. She repeated it in a surprisingly accurate manner, without missing a single word. Watching her complete the oath of membership, still appearing carefree and without any sense of pressure, Zhang Shintong couldn't help but sigh inwardly. As expected, a newborn calf fears no tiger. A mere child, unaware of the mysteries of true immortals. Seeing Zhang Shintong looking preoccupied, Ji Shaoli spoke up. Fellow Taoist Zhang, there is no need to worry. Have already contacted headquarters. This fishing pond will still be under your care. Everything remains the same. Zhang Shintong was immediately surprised to hear this. Furthermore, we won't make any attempt to conceal this place. After all, only treasures need to be concealed. Why would we specifically protect a mere ordinary pond? However, you can set up a formation outside your mountain temple to prevent such peeping from outsiders from happening again, Ji Shaoli said slowly. If there is a real leak, we can quickly come to support you. Ji Shaoli's detailed explanation dispelled most of the doubts in Zhang Shintong's heart. It seems I was a bit too cautious. This Myriad Realms United Association truly lives up to its name, he thought to himself. With Lin Linga's help, the protective formation outside the small temple was quickly completed. Ji Shaoli then wanted to take out some magical treasures to give Zhang Shintong for self-defense. This made Zhang Shintong, who hadn't felt such care in a long time, feel somewhat embarrassed. There is no need for these things. This old Taoist has fished up too many odd things over the years. They wouldn't be of much use in a real crisis. He shook his head. As he spoke, he threw over a storage ring. Fellow Taoist, see if there is anything in here that I might have overlooked. Ji Shaoli's divine sense swept through the storage ring space, which resembled a junkyard, piled high with items. After a moment, he shook his head. Not of great value. However, Ji Shaoli paused slightly. Although some items are not of high quality, they may have other added value. After all, most of these are items from other cultivation worlds. As far as I know, some cultivators are very interested in similar items. Zhang Shintong nodded slightly. I naturally know this principle. But I was afraid of attracting attention, so I simply gave up on selling them. But now, you don't need to worry about that. Ji Shaoli took back the storage ring. We will have someone specially handle these things. At that time, half of the profits will be turned over to the association, and half will still be returned to you. Zhang Shintong had no objections to this distribution, and even sighed. Having a backer is indeed stronger than fighting alone. The fishing pond is an extremely rare treasure. The United Association will also take strict confidentiality measures for it. Other than the occasional person coming to fish, it won't be very frequent. A.G. Shaoli explained the future arrangements to Zhang Shentong. The various measures reassured him more and more. After that, Ji Shaoli asked him for advice on his experience fishing in the starry sky. What exactly is this so-called, using intent as bait? Can any intent do? Zhang Shentong pondered for a moment, then explained, the fishing pond does not have any instructions for use, so I have to rely on my own exploration for everything. Based on my years of experience, using intent as bait roughly follows the principle of like attracts like. Within the fishing pond, there are countless light clusters. Naturally, they also have their own different attribute classifications. Light clusters similar to the condensed intent bait are more likely to be fished up. Zhang Shentong then took out the Hunyuan purple golden gourd, and said, for example, this gourd, I was lucky enough to fish it up because I visualized a gourd-shaped destructive magic weapon that I had seen before. Ji Shaoli nodded thoughtfully upon hearing this. If we regard those light clusters as having their own consciousness, does not that mean that they will be attracted to intent bait that is similar to themselves, or that they are interested in? Zhang Shentong nodded. That being said, it still depends on luck. Zhang Shentong said with a frown. The starry sky within this fishing pond is too vast. The range that the intent bait can affect each time is only a corner of it. The fishing line is lowered, and it can just happen to touch the light cluster that can be attracted to difficult. Zhang Shentong said 3 times, expressing the helplessness in his heart. I think, there should also be a special method used in conjunction with this fishing pond. But it has disappeared, leaving only this fishing pond existing in the world, he said with emotion. Ji Shaoli also nodded in agreement. The Tua's conversation was only completed using divine sense transmission. Luli and Lin Ling, who were on the side, did not know. However, in this short period of time, the relationship between them had rapidly warmed up. They were no longer glaring at each other, but playing together. Zhang Shentong was even more filled with emotion as he watched this scene. I see this for After hesitating for a moment, Zhang Shentong still did not say the word, senior. This girl named Lin Ling, seems to be not too old. He asked tentatively. Ji Shaoli nodded. Born only a dozen years ago, without experiencing the affairs of the world, so she is still childlike. These words completely stunned Zhang Shentong. A dozen years. Integration stage. Fellow Taoist, don't be surprised. Within our united association, there are countless peerless geniuses. This level off A is nothing. Ji Shaoli smiled mysteriously, only explaining simply. Zhang Shentong was lost in thought amidst shock. Ji Shaoli then tried fishing again. Calming his mind, he came to the endless and brilliant starry sky. Intent is bait to He tried to condense the visualized consciousness into bait. But unsurprisingly, it failed. However, this time he was lucky, and fished up a blue light cluster. He could not see the specific use, it seemed to be one of the fragments of a magic weapon. After some fruitless research, Ji Shaoli temporarily put it away. After this period of time, he stayed in the small temple, practicing his proficiency every day. As he became more and more familiar with Zhang Shentong and his apprentice, with their guidance, his progress also increased rapidly. Half a month later, Ji Shaoli finally condensed the intent bait for the first time. There will be another chapter at 2 o'clock. 866. Empty the fishing pond. Adhering to the principle of fishing with sustainable depletion, Ji Shaoli did not choose any particularly outrageous target for his first attempt at creating a mental lure. Although he was very eager to see what would happen if Mr. Bai, True Immortal, Chaos, Hunger, or even Huan Zina were formed into mental fish bait. But after all, the fishing pond is in existence at the level of a celestial artifact, and its interior is even more mysterious and unpredictable. If he insisted on doing so, no one could say for sure whether he would catch some indescribable monster. And then, like the true immortal of the 115th life, violently destroy the Xuanwang realm. This life has only just begun, and the layout has only just begun to show results. Li Fan currently has no intention of becoming Huan Zhen. Perhaps I can try it when this life comes to an end. Speaking of this first mental fish bait, what Ji Shaoli visualized was the 7-colored divine light that Zhang Shentong had fished up in his previous life. If we talk about like attracting like, what could be more in line with this requirement than the items in the bright starry sky themselves? At the same time, this is also an experiment. If it really is as expected, that it is easier to fish up known items, then, with the help of Huan Zhen, the difficulty of fishing can undoubtedly be greatly reduced. As long as the number of reincarnations and attempts is sufficient, a complete list of items within the fishing pond's light spheres can be established. Perhaps, there will even be a day when this countless fishing pond will be completely emptied. Most importantly, the resource output of this fishing pond is completely independent and unaffected by anything else in the Xuanwang realm. Li Fan's different plans in each life, leading to different historical directions, will not prevent the fishing pond from becoming the most stable magic treasure supply base. It can be said that it is of great significance. Of course, the premise of all this is that Li Fan's guess is correct. In the brilliant starry sky of the fishing pond, the avatar Ji Shaoli's mind flashed with all the characteristics of the seven-colored divine light that Zhang Shentong had previously displayed. The seven-colored divine light is continuous and endless. Not only is its lethality amazing, but its speed is also terrifying. The foundation establishment stage can be comparable to the nascent soul stage. Moreover, it seems to have a special function of protecting its master. In the 114th life, Zhang Shentong was able to use the seven-colored divine light to freely travel through the white mist, unaffected by the devouring white mist. It can be described as attack, defense, and escape in one, with infinite wonderful uses. Once obtained, there is no need for other magic treasures. Even with Li Fan's experience, in all the scenes he has seen in the reincarnations, the magical nature of this seven-colored divine light is definitely among the top. Just in the foundation establishment stage, it can have such performance. What about the transformation god, Tao integration, and even the longevity realm? Will this seven-colored divine light have even more incredible characteristics? As Ji Shaoli continued to visualize, a blurry seven-colored light and shadow slowly formed at the end of the hanging fishing line. Because he only knew its external appearance, and did not truly master it like Zhang Shentong. Therefore, the mental fish bait that was condensed was still a bit different from the actual seven-colored divine light. But even so, at the moment the fish bait took shape, it was still like a drop of water falling into a pond. Circles of ripples quickly spread around. The countless light spheres seemed to sense something and showed different changes. The vast majority ignored it, as if they couldn't detect it. These were mostly white, with occasionally some blue light spheres inside. There were also some that seemed to have met their own kind, and floated towards the mental fish bait with some doubts. These light spheres were mixed with blue and purple. But after approaching, most of them recognized it clearly. And did not bite the bait and get hooked. Ji Shaoli didn't care about these light spheres of low quality. Instead, he concentrated his mind and paid attention to whether any golden or even higher quality light spheres were attracted. But as Zhang Shentong introduced, the range of influence of the mental fish bait is extremely limited. The invisible ripples quickly attenuated after spreading out for a certain distance. And finally completely disappeared into the endless starry sky. The result of this fishing was also obvious. He failed to fish up the seven-colored divine light. What he harvested was just a blue light sphere containing a defensive magic treasure. He casually put it away, and Ji Shaoli was not discouraged. He just patiently waited for the arrival of tomorrow. This attempt at least confirmed that the method of visualizing the existing objects in the fishing pond is indeed effective. It's just that he was unlucky and didn't cast his line into the area where the seven-colored divine light could detect it. Although it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, I have enough trial and error costs. No hurry. However, normal cultivators don't have almost unlimited opportunities to try like Maya. Perhaps the method that comes with the fishing pond also has a method of directional casting. Ji Shaoli looked at the shallow but deep pool of water in front of him and pondered to himself. I also don't know if a cultivator with outstanding talent can deduce this set of methods for manipulating the fishing pond according to his needs. Although it is a celestial artifact, but after all, it's just a tool. There should still be a big difference from a true immortal. A white figure couldn't help but flash in Ji Shaoli's mind. For the next period of time, Ji Shaoli persevered and patiently tried. Each time, the mental fish bait did not change. It was all seven-colored divine light. The light spheres in the fishing pond also seemed to really have spirituality. The number of times the seven-colored divine light emitted invisible fluctuations increased, and fewer were attracted and willing to take the bait. This also directly led to the fact that at the beginning, Ji Shaoli could still fish up some blue light spheres. But later, blue light spheres almost disappeared. Even the probability of white light spheres appearing became less and less, and most of them were empty rods. This made Zhang Shintong, who had been paying attention to Ji Shaoli's fishing progress, couldn't help but shake his head secretly. But Ji Shaoli was not annoyed by this. Instead, he gradually rejoiced in his heart. Because when all the wrong answers are eliminated, then what remains is the only correct answer. Thus, Ji Shaoli continued to cast empty rods for the 20th day. On this day, Zhang Shintong looked at Ji Shaoli, who was slowly getting up by the pond, seemingly still without any gains. Finally, he couldn't help but say words of comfort, "Fellow Taoist, don't be discouraged. In the way of fishing, returning empty-handed is the norm. As long as you can endure loneliness, one day, your luck will explode and you will fish up the big fish you want." Ji Shaoli's expression was calm. "Fellow Taoist, Zhang is right. I also deeply agree. It's not in vain that I've been sitting here for more than 60 days. Finally, I have a small gain." Listening to the first half of Ji Shaoli's words, Zhang Shintong nodded frequently. But the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong. A hint of astonishment appeared on his face. But with the arrival of a dazzling golden light, this astonishment instantly turned into unbelievable shock. In Ji Shaoli's hand, a golden light sphere emitted a dazzling light. It was like another sun, and everyone else in the small temple was immediately blinded. 867. Refine the treasure with the light of heaven. If Lin Ling hadn't already set up a protective array around this small mountain temple, the brilliance of the golden light cluster in Ji Shaoli's hand would have immediately attracted the attention of other cultivators. This, Zhang Shintong stammered, pointing at Ji Shaoli, unable to utter a complete sentence for a long time. "Well, it's a pity it's not a purple gold or dark gold light cluster. But this is acceptable," Ji Shaoli said casually, reaching into it in front of everyone and rummaging around. The golden light gradually dissipated. Replacing it was a round bead radiating a 7-colored halo. The moment he saw the 7-colored bead, a complex emotion welled up in Zhang Shintong's heart. There was greed, a sense of loss, and regret. It made him uneasy. 7-colored jade void glimmer. The moment he touched the bead, information about it naturally appeared in Ji Shaoli's mind. It originated from a cultivation world called Changyan. In that world, there were no sun or moon in the sky, only 7-colored lights taking turns to appear and illuminate the world. Later, a great cultivator collected and refined these 7 glimmers. Although it resulted in an unparalleled magic treasure, it also directly led to the destruction of the Changyan world. Time passed, and the cultivator had long since fallen. The magic treasure he refined ended up in the fishing pond. Ji Shaoli was immediately shocked. Not only because the specifications of this 7-colored divine light were extremely high, surpassing ordinary harmony realm treasures, but also because magic treasures of this level were only golden grade in the fishing pond. What terrifying existences would those purple gold and dark gold light clusters be? And what level of magic treasure was this fishing pond that could contain them all? It's definitely not an ordinary immortal artifact. But they are all masterless. What exactly happened in the immortal realm? Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind, but Ji Shaoli did not directly refine the 7-colored divine light. He simply put it away to give to his main body later. Coming back to his senses, he looked at Zhang Shintong, who was still in shock, and asked with some confusion, "What's wrong? Is it difficult to fish up this golden light cluster? Fellow Taoist Zhang has occupied this fishing platform for decades. With your ability, you should have fished up quite a few, right? Is there a need to be so surprised?" Zhang Shintong opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but stopped. Heh. Zhang Shintong's eyes were full of confusion, and he could only respond with a dry laugh. "All right, luck is conserved. The thing I fished up this time is good. If I don't know how to restrain myself, I guess I'll be wasting my time for a long time to come. I'll leave things here to fellow Taoist Zhang. The affairs of the United Association are busy, and I can't stay here all the time," Ji Shaoli said with regret. "By the way, there may be some geniuses from the association coming over to try fishing from time to time in the future. I'll notify you before they come." Throwing a communication talisman to the other party, Ji Shaoli looked at the fishing pond with reluctance. Then he finally called Lin Ling and left the small mountain temple. Zhang Shintong looked at the familiar scenery inside the small temple, just with an extra layer of protective formation. The experience during this period was like a dream, making him a little confused. It was just that the faceless stone statue suddenly appeared in front of him, immediately waking Zhang Shintong up. After thinking for a long time, he sighed slightly and reluctantly accepted this fact. Then he looked at the fishing pond and sat back down, unwilling to give up. Even if he had used up all his fishing attempts for today, he still wanted to find the feeling. Even if Ji Shaoli surpassed him in cultivation, realm, supernatural powers, and so on, Zhang Shintong wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Only the fact that he had fished up the golden light sphere, which he had only fished up twice in his life, in such a short period of time, made Zhang Shintong completely unacceptable. I am definitely not weaker than others in the way of fishing, Zhang Shintong said fiercely in his heart, constantly practicing his casting movements in his mind. Above the small mountain temple, Ji Shaoli carefully monitored Zhang Shintong's life for 2 or 3 days. Finding that he had no other unusual behavior besides becoming more and more obsessed with fishing, he finally left with peace of mind. Relying on the name of the red dust compassionate true immortal to fool people is not a long-term solution after all. In order to ensure that the secret here is not leaked, some other means are still needed. With his foundation establishment cultivation, there is no need to use the true temptation fruit. After the main body completes its breakthrough, the bloodline transfer secret technique can be used. The endless treasures in the fishing pond were obviously not something that could be completely excavated in a short period of time. Therefore, Ji Shaoli did not intend to squat here all the time and fish every day. Relying on him alone, even if he fished for 100 years, it would only be a drop in the bucket compared to the vast starry sky. Moreover, fishing by luck without knowing the specific treasures was too inefficient. Well, in the future, anyone in the Myriad Worlds United Association who makes outstanding contributions can come here to fish once. Even if they really fish up some supreme treasure, I'm not afraid. In the end, it will all be mine. While thinking, he personally went to the Spirit Wood World with Lin Ling, handed that 7-colored jade void glimmer to his main body. Then he returned to Haizan Island. As usual, he checked the heavenly mystery little mirror. During the time he was focused on fishing, the Myriad Immortals Alliance was not peaceful. Most of the hundreds of candidates for the 33 Immortal selections had returned one after another. Only 33 cultivators remained at the Immortal Alliance headquarters. This meant that the Immortal selectees had been finalized. Everyone knew that these Immortal selectees would be Harmony Realm cultivators in the future, with unlimited potential. Their backgrounds had already been thoroughly investigated. Whether it was to curry favor or to establish good relationships in advance. In short, as long as they weren't fools, they all began to try their best to build relationships with these 33 Immortal selectees. Wei Qizheng, who had successfully been selected, was just a loner. But many cultivators came from afar and contacted Wei Qizheng's friends. Naturally, the organization that Wei Qizheng had once participated in, the Kongyan Sea Mutual Aid Society, was also exposed to the public eye. However, after some investigation, everyone discovered that the members of this mutual aid society were all cultivators within the Immortal Alliance system. And none of them had deep roots. Moreover, the highest cultivation was only nascent soul realm. It's just a group to keep each other warm. They couldn't help but come to this conclusion. They only sighed at the good luck of this small group, which had only a small number of people but actually produced an immortal selectee. At the beginning, the members of the Mutual Aid Society were a little nervous when faced with the constant inquiries. However, after realizing that these so-called big forces, cultivators didn't pay much attention to them at all. They only said a few words and then led to Wei Qizheng, they gradually let go of their worries. However, they actually didn't have anything to reveal. The secret of the Mutual Aid Society was all on Ji Shaoli alone. 868. The original power of the world. Having returned to Haizan Island, Ji Shaoli naturally received many banquet invitations and requests for visits. He simply ignored them. With so many eyes and ears, it's not suitable for this clone to go out for the time being. I should honestly seclude myself for a while. However, it's quite unexpected that the Myriad Immortals Alliance would actually release the failed cultivators from the Immortal selection. Ji Shaoli frowned slightly, a hint of confusion flashing through his mind. If the 33 immortal candidates' plan was truly so important, then at the very least, before the immortal candidates' plan had exerted its intended effects, their identities should be kept secret. Naturally, They shouldn't have released those who failed, but instead should have concealed the true identities of the 33 immortal candidates. But the Myriad Immortals Alliance had no intention of doing so at all. It doesn't matter who they are at all, as long as there are these 33 people who meet the requirements. Ji Shaoli's eyes narrowed slightly. Interesting. Let me see what medicine the Myriad Immortals Alliance is selling in its gourd. It's time to give the Myriad Immortals Alliance a little more pressure. Clone Ji Shaoli sat still on Haizan Island. In the Spirit Wood realm, Lin Ling, under Li Fan's orders, went to Nine Mountain State again to contact the Five Old Men Association. The Five Old Men Association questioned why they hadn't received a reply for so long. Lin Ling, according to Li Fan's prior instructions, told them about the integration of the Radiant Orb with the bizarre powers of Mind Monkey and Intention Horse. Although the representative of the Five Old Men Association remained calm on the surface, Lin Ling still keenly sensed the other party's intense psychological fluctuations. After sending another batch of supplies to express gratitude, the Five Old Men Association inquired about the 33 immortal candidates' plan. Lin Ling was vague and perfunctory. Just as the other party was feeling somewhat disappointed, she directly revealed a bombshell. In order to cope with the Five Old Men Association's covetous gaze, in addition to the immortal candidates, the Myriad Immortals Alliance has also developed many world-shaking weapons, including that sky-rending cannon. If you don't take action, I'm afraid it will be too late to regret. Lin Ling repeated Li Fan's words verbatim. At the same time, she also transmitted a segment of video. A world-destroying black beam of light pierced through layers of white mist, annihilating everything in its path. The black beam of light gradually disappeared, but the void it created had not been filled and restored by the white mist for a long time. Its residual power prevented foreign objects from approaching. Even if it was just a blurred image, one could see the power of this sky-rending cannon. No matter how sophisticated the representative of the Five Old Men Association was, he couldn't hide his shocked expression. Taking a deep breath, he cupped his hands and said that there would be a generous reward in the future. Then he left in a hurry. Lin Ling looked at the disappearing figure of the other party and curled her lips. She returned to report through the earth veins. In the Five Elements Grotto Heaven. I don't know if the Myriad Immortals Alliance in this world has actually created this world-shaking weapon. But it doesn't matter whether it's true or false. The Five Old Men Association was already eager to make a move, but they were temporarily held back by the Immortal Alliance's strange moves. After solving the Radiant Orb incident, and with the pressure of the 33 immortal candidates and the sky-rending cannon and other great weapons, I believe they should choose to strike first. Just wait. After receiving the message from Lin Ling, Li Fan pondered for a moment before shifting his attention. In his dantian, a 7-colored orb radiated a sacred light, making people dizzy and fascinated. As expected of a treasure formed by refining the heavenly light of a realm. It's not a matter of a day or two to completely control it. Spiritual power wrapped around the 7-colored orb in layers, and many scenes flashed quickly before Li Fan's eyes. There were cultivators flying between white clouds, and there were mortals living on the earth. That was the scene of the Changyan cultivation world, which had already been destroyed. Unfortunately, the time of heaven and earth changes suddenly. I can't see the details clearly. Li Fan thought with a slight regret in his heart. So far, in addition to the Zanhuang realm, he already knew the names of the 3 cultivation worlds, Xiaoyao, Tai, and Changyan. But that was all. Apart from the names, he knew very little about the specific situation inside. If I could get rid of the shackles of the immortal ruins, I could explore it. However, Changyan has been destroyed. It's hard to say whether the Xiaoyao and Tai realms still exist. Physical strength and spiritual power surged, and Li Fan slowly refined the 7-colored orb. He also returned most of his energy to devouring the 5 Elements Grotto Heaven. But not long after, Li Fan discovered some anomalies. The growth rate of the roots of heaven and earth was almost doubled compared to before. If this trend continued, it wouldn't even take a year to completely devour this 5 Elements Grotto Heaven. During this period, Li Fan did not go out. The only variable was the newly obtained 7-colored orb. While Li Fan was a little surprised, he secretly pondered and studied the specific reasons for the change. Before long, he discovered the possible reasons. While refining the 7-colored orb with spiritual power, a mysterious force was also nourishing and transforming the spiritual power. With the blessing of this power, the roots of heaven and earth seemed to have obtained some great tonic, and they multiplied frantically. Moreover, as Li Fan's progress in refining the seven-colored orb deepened, the speed of this reproduction continued to increase. Even Li Fan, the initiator, was a little frightened. Like dark clouds blown by a strong wind, Li Fan was eroding the five elements grotto heaven at an unimaginable and terrifying speed. If there weren't too many monsters in the Zanhuang realm, I could even use this method to take the Zanhuang realm as my own in just over 10 years. Li Fan couldn't help but feel this premonition in his heart. What exactly is this mysterious power? Li Fan carefully comprehended it. Only after 7 full days did he suddenly realize the power of the world's origin. The seven-colored heavenly light of the Changyan realm is the evolution of the heavenly Tao. It contains the origin of the world. After being refined into a magic weapon, it was preserved because of this. In ordinary battles and escapes, this special attribute will not be revealed. However, when it comes into contact with the roots of heaven and earth, this new method specially used to devour the world, it will react. Like a catalyst, it greatly enhances the power of the roots of heaven and earth and accelerates the speed of devouring the grotto heaven. Strictly speaking, the loss of the world's origin will have a certain impact on the power of the seven-colored orb. It's just a matter of bringing the time forward, and it's not worth the loss at all. But for me, it doesn't matter at all. Li Fan understood in his heart. Then he accelerated the process of refining and extracting the power of the world's origin. Since the power of the world's origin is helpful for promotion in the nascent soul stage. Then what about the transformation God, Tao integration, and even longevity? Will it still be helpful? Looking at the increasingly vigorous countless tentacles, Li Fan couldn't help but think. Using the power of other worlds to devour the world. This should have been impossible, but because of the appearance of the treasure of the fishing pond, it became possible. There will be only 2 updates today. I can't stay up late anymore. 869. The clues of overcoming difficulties are revealed. No wonder this seven-colored divine light is almost inexhaustible in actual combat, with no need to worry about consumption. It turns out that it has the essence of a cultivation world as its backing. Within Li Fan's Dantian, as the power of the world's origin was continuously extracted, the seven-colored orb seemed to dim somewhat. But in contrast, the heaven and earth roots tentacles, which blotted out the sky and covered the sun, penetrated into every corner of the 5 elements grand grotto heaven. Moreover, the heaven and earth root, nourished by the power of the origin, was somewhat different from that evolved by ordinary cultivators relying solely on their own spiritual power. It became more ferocious, and more greedy, as if having tasted the marrow, without Li Fan's deliberate manipulation. With just a thought, the dense black tentacles eagerly expanded towards the untouched virgin land. The originally vibrant and colorful grotto heaven world was gradually shrouded in a layer of shadow. It fell into a heart-palpitating darkness. Li Fan, watching this somewhat indescribable scene, even felt a premonition in his heart. Even if he didn't deliberately manipulate it, this strengthened heaven and earth root could complete the devouring process in a short time. The annexation of worlds. When Celestial Venerable Xuanfa created the new method, he must have personally witnessed the scene of world fusion, Li Fan realized. He didn't care about the loss of the seven-colored orb. He increased the speed of devouring to the limit. 3 months later, it's time. Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes. The black roots had completely entangled the 5 elements grotto heaven. Looking from outside the void, all that could be seen was a strange hairball entangled with countless tentacles. There was no sign of the magnificent and vast life force grotto heaven from before. With a thought, the countless roots below immediately bared their fangs and brandished their claws. The 5 elements grand grotto heaven trembled slightly. Extremely pure vitality, transmitted through the roots as conduits, flowed into Li Fan's body. His body, which was originally in its 20s, seemed to return to its teens in an instant, to a stage of growth. Moreover, every tissue, bone, and flesh of his body was undergoing earth-shattering changes under the power of this pure and refined vitality. Li Fan took a deep breath, adapting to this surging vitality. He narrowed his eyes and, without changing his expression, cut a deep bloodstain on his arm, almost revealing the ghastly white bone inside. The injury was so severe, but after only a few breaths, the wound automatically healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It should be known that Li Fan has not yet officially devoured the nascent soul grotto heaven. He can already do this just by relying on the vitality feedback from the grotto heaven. It's much stronger than the previous nascent grotto heaven. Li Fan sighed slightly in his heart. Then, his body slowly dissolved, turning into a gurgling ink color, rushing into the five elements grand grotto heaven along the countless tentacles. The grotto heaven, wrapped in black roots, seemed to sense the crisis. Huge roars echoed in the grotto heaven world, the earth was torn apart, and the ocean set off monstrous waves. Countless creations within could not help but let out mournful cries. But they could not affect the speed of Li Fan's devouring in the slightest. As the black continued to pour in, a part of the five elements grand grotto heaven began to become transparent and disappear. The grotto heaven's struggle also became weaker and weaker. In the end, it completely calmed down. Although the five elements grand grotto heaven disappeared, the void here still existed. Empty and void. After an unknown amount of time, a figure suddenly appeared. It was Li Fan, who had successfully advanced to the nascent soul realm. Every part of his body was surging with immense power. Li Fan had never felt so strong since he began cultivating. He even felt that even ordinary Dao integration cultivators might not be his opponents. Ordinary Dao integration, their power covers an area the size of Xuanwang Prefecture. And the five elements grand grotto heaven I devoured is almost equivalent to the merger of 5 prefectures. Quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Relying solely on absolute power, I can crush a group of weak Dao integration cultivators. What's more, I have many supernatural powers. Li Fan's eyes flickered, and he finally felt a little sense of security in his heart. As long as the eternal life realm doesn't appear, no matter how much he courts death in this world, he should be able to escape calmly. With so much power expanded, it will be more convenient to make plans in the future, he thought to himself. Li Fan, who had completed his advancement, was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, his divine sense constantly swept across the void here, as if he was searching for something. Once, twice, he tried many times, but found nothing unusual. Li Fan still didn't give up. After his strength greatly increased, he keenly realized that there seemed to be something else in this five elements void. Hidden extremely deep, but it still revealed a trace of flaw at the moment Li Fan successfully broke through and completely devoured the five elements grotto heaven, due to the drastic change in the environment. It was noticed by Li Fan. This hidden existence does not belong to the Xuanwang realms, heaven and earth root. But it has always been haunting him, appearing by Li Fan's side from time to time. The ferrying calamity sect. Li Fan snorted coldly. A circle of 7-colored light emerged from his body, and then, this 7-colored light became countless times brighter in an instant. It expanded towards the surrounding void. The 7-colored divine light was like a real object, completely filling and occupying this void space. All foreign objects must be repelled and revealed. What Li Fan is using now is like the difference between the bright moon in the sky and the light of a firefly compared to Zhang Shintong in the previous life. Only with this vast five elements grand grotto heaven as support can Li Fan be allowed to squander so unscrupulously. But the effect is also excellent. Li Fan's purpose was finally achieved. Under the pure pressure of the 7-colored divine light, a foreign object was finally revealed. Li Fan's eyes flickered, and he reached out and grabbed it. Upon closer inspection, it was a small person made of yellow talisman paper. It seemed to have existed for too long, and the yellow of the talisman paper was somewhat pale. Moreover, this little person was also very strange. There were no facial features on its head, only a single eye, occupying the entire face. What made Li Fan feel even more solemn was that the one-eyed paper doll seemed to be alive. At the same time as being caught by Li Fan, its eyes moved slightly, staring at him intently. Li Fan instantly felt a trace of heat in his hand, as if being burned by a raging fire. Playing tricks. A ball of flame suddenly appeared in his hand, wrapping the one-eyed paper doll. Li Fan tried to burn it clean, but the flames jumped for a long time, and this paper doll was not affected in any way. It was as if it didn't exist in reality at all. Even if Li Fan's flames were at a higher temperature, it couldn't destroy it in the slightest. Next, Li Fan tried various methods. 5 elements magic, the sword of annihilation, and even formations. All could not destroy it. Seeing this scene, a sentence couldn't help but pop into Li Fan's mind. Beyond the 3 realms, not within the 5 elements. The yellow paper doll's eyes moved slightly, seeming to be mocking Li Fan's overestimation of his own abilities. 870. Li Fan's weakness. Li Fan, however, was not annoyed. A cluster of pure, 7-colored light emerged in his hand, enveloping the one-eyed little man within. This 7-colored divine light, after Li Fan's continuous and deliberate compression, The 7 colors were almost fused into one, turning into a dazzling white light. Like holding a sun in his hand, illuminating the surrounding void with intense brightness. The yellow paper figure in the white light seemed somewhat distorted due to the immense pressure. But Li Fan continued to increase the output of the 7-colored divine light. With the 5 elements cave heaven as a supplement, even the damaged 7-colored jade void glaze could exert its original power to the fullest extent. The 7-colored divine light did not belong to the Xuanwang world. As it began to condense, it continuously repelled all external objects. The yellow one-eyed paper man seemed to finally sense the danger. Its eye turned rapidly, looking at Li Fan, seeming to have the intention to communicate. But Li Fan completely ignored it. Without the slightest intention of stopping, he further increased the output power of the 7-colored divine light. Finally, when a point of white light was refined to its limit. Like a violent explosion at the beginning of the world, the yellow talisman paper was completely burned away in the blazing fire. A stone finally lifted from his heart, Li Fan breathed a long sigh of relief, and slowly withdrew the 7-colored divine light into his body. Having just advanced to the nascent soul stage, he had not completely refined the 7-colored jade void glaze. The previous action was actually somewhat overloading for Li Fan. But it was worth it to finally destroy this method of the crossing calamity sect. Eternal tribulation world seeking the tribulation taker. It seems that the yellow one-eyed paper man is their method of finding the tribulation taker. As expected of the legendary sect that uses a crossing calamity as cultivation resources. Ordinary spells cannot touch this paper man at all, let alone destroy them. I wonder where these old guys are hiding. Li Fan frowned slightly. After thinking for a long time, he still had no clue. Deciding to put this matter aside for now. The 5 elements Great Cave Heaven had been swallowed into Li Fan's body, and the channel with the altered docking coordinates naturally became ineffective. At this moment, Li Fan was actually located in the void of Tianling state. When he concealed his aura, broke through the void, and returned to the Xuanwang world. A creepy feeling suddenly surged from his heart. Li Fan raised his head and looked towards the heavens and the earth. Whether it was his illusion or not, Li Fan seemed to see countless one-eyed little men made of yellow talisman paper. Distributed in every corner of the Xuanwang world. Silently widening their only eye, observing the world without anyone noticing. When Li Fan broke through the void and returned to the Xuanwang world, they seemed to sense the culprit who had destroyed one of their members. Turning their eyes together, they looked towards Li Fan. Locked by thousands of gazes, Li Fan's body stiffened instantly. However, before the thought could even form in his mind, those gazes naturally disappeared. From beginning to end, it was just like Li Fan's illusion. The frozen body gradually returned to normal, but Li Fan's expression did not relax. He knew that the scene that had just happened was not an illusion at all, but a real occurrence. This Xuanwang world was actually filled with eyes by the people of the Crossing Calamity sect. Moreover, it was done in almost complete secrecy. Li Fan couldn't help but think of when he was still immortal, at the edge of the Great Zon Ruins abyss. He was almost bewitched by the illusion in the abyss and was about to fall off the cliff. But he was suddenly awakened by the same illusion. Escaping a disaster. Does this mean even the Zon world has a yellow one-eyed paper man spread and fixed in it? The thought that his actions all along might have been seen clearly by the Crossing Calamity sect cultivators behind the scenes. Li Fan couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. But after all, he had experienced too much and did not panic. After some analysis, he gradually calmed down. First of all, it can be determined that the range that each one-eyed paper man can monitor is not too large. Otherwise, there would be no need for so many talismans to complete the coverage of the entire Xuanwang world. Secondly, this Crossing Calamity sect talisman paper should not have any other functions besides monitoring. The Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Council definitely know about the existence of these yellow talismans. But it is not an easy task to destroy them. So, they will most likely choose to turn a blind eye. No wonder the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance is built in the heavenly Zon mirror, not in the Xuanwang world. There may be a meaning of avoiding these yellow paper men that are like psoriasis. And Zhao Shiji's One-Heart Immortal sect is also in a separate space. Li Fan recalled the encounter when he was almost taken to the One-Heart Immortal sect. This Crossing Calamity sect has such low quality. Throughout his 100 reincarnations, Li Fan had met Mo Sha, Heavenly Physician, Ruimu, Mr. Bai, True Immortals, and other figures. Although each time was fraught with danger, he had reverence for these true powerhouses. And these people did indeed live up to the demeanor of experts. Even if Li Fan died in their hands due to mistakes, Li Fan would not have any complaints in his heart. He would only feel that he was not careful enough and his skills were inferior. But only this time, Li Fan was really disgusted. Anyone who knows that such a good Xuanwang world is covered with talismans everywhere. I'm afraid their mood will not be good. Even when the Zon net came into being in the 114th life, it was done openly. The green sky, although a bit strange, but it is definitely much better than these dense, pervasive plasters. Recalling the glimpse just now, Li Fan couldn't help but have the idea of completely cleaning them up. Buddha, it was just a thought after all. Since the Myriad Immortals Alliance has been allowing the existence of these paper men for so many years, it shows that it is not an easy task to completely eliminate them. After all, who would want to live under someone else's eyes every day? Crossing Calamity Sect, crossing Calamity Secta. A fierce light flashed in Li Fan's eyes. For the first time, he had the idea of taking the initiative to kill them. It seems that other things have to be put aside for now. At the very least, we must first solve the matter of being constantly monitored. Li Fan thought to himself. At the same time, a trace of doubt arose in his heart. What exactly do the people of this crossing Calamity Sect want to do? He has experienced many endings of the Xuanwang world. There have even been world destructions. But no matter which direction the future of the Xuanwang world takes, he has never seen a true crossing Calamity Sect cultivator appear. Are they waiting for the person to take the calamity to appear, and the calamity to completely pass? Feeling the faint, almost imperceptible gazes coming from the heavens and the earth, Li Fan's thoughts fluctuated. After a long time, he flew towards Jushan Prefecture. He wants to talk to the Five Elders Council. 871. God destroys the sky. Although after advancing to the nascent soul stage, one could contend against a Tao harmonization cultivator. Given the sensitive time, with the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Old Ones on the verge of conflict, Li Fan didn't act overly arrogant. The 7-colored divine light was too conspicuous, so Li Fan simply spent more spiritual energy, like he did when destroying the yellow one-eyed paper figure, condensing the 7 colors into a faint white light. He flew at low altitude, concealing his aura with secret techniques. His speed was astonishing, and in a short while, he had crossed the heavenly spirit state domain. Facing the obstruction of the white mist barrier ahead, he didn't dodge or evade, but charged straight through. The 7-colored jade void glaze light was extremely domineering and intolerant of foreign objects. Even this mysterious white mist, capable of devouring lifespan, couldn't find a flaw to invade and could only linger outside. With the nearly endless pure spiritual energy of the 5 elements cave heaven as a driver, Li Fan was able to unleash the speed of the 7-colored divine light to the extreme. Before setting off, he notified Lin Ling. The two of them arrived at stone descent state almost simultaneously. The 7-colored divine light's escape technique is not much slower than rapidly traversing with the help of the earth vein flow. Li Fan nodded in satisfaction. This way, his weakness in escaping was also made up for. In the future, when encountering life or death crises, he wouldn't have to think about rebirth so readily. He could try to escape first. Master. Lin Ling sensed the earth-shattering changes that had occurred in Li Fan and couldn't help but be surprised, looking him up and down. Let's go. Li Fan looked towards the cultivator formations gathered at the border between Stone Descent and 9 mountain states and instructed. During his closed-door advancement, due to being misled by the false information he provided, minor frictions had occurred between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Old Ones in the bordering states. Disturbances of varying degrees had also appeared simultaneously in both of their hinterlands. Currently, the protective formations of each state were constantly activated. Moreover, because the mole within the formation strategy hall hadn't been found, this protective array was the A-God Extinction Formationa, newly created by the Immortal Alliance headquarters and never seen before. The name was quite domineering. And the actual effect was indeed remarkable. The end termination disintegration disk, which had previously been unfailing, couldn't break this formation for a good while. Li Fan narrowed his eyes. It seems to be more than just a simple formation. There are also some cultivators with considerable strength acting as formation eyes within the God Extinction Formation, making up for possible flaws in the formation. In the results derived from the disintegration disk's calculations, even if a cultivator suppressing a certain point was defeated, as long as the complete structure of the formation remained, it could draw power from other places and quickly regenerate a new formation. Moreover, this newly generated formation would be different from before. The power of the God Extinction formation will continuously increase as the cultivators presiding over the formation strengthen. If there are 4 Tao harmonization, then only the celestial Venerable of longevity can break it. This was the conclusion derived from the disintegration disk's analysis. Fortunately, the formation only covered the territory, the sky, and the shallow surface of the ground. The deep earth vein flow, however, was spared. Under Lin Ling's guidance, Li Fan passed through the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's defense line and arrived at Nine Mountains State. Nine Mountains was also filled with a tense atmosphere. It could be seen that the 5 Old Ones had built many fortresses on the 9 mountain peaks, resembling a black sphere buried in the ground, with only the arc of the top exposed. On the surface of the black sphere fortress, there was faintly a small red dot, moving non-stop. When Li Fan cast his gaze over, this red dot immediately sensed something and stared over. A faint sense of crisis surged in his heart. However, it quickly disappeared as the locked-on red dot moved away. It seemed that Lin Ling had already released the signal for contact. While waiting for the other party to arrive, Li Fan observed Nine Mountains State. It had nothing to do with the 5 Old Ones' defense arrangements, but Li Fan was trying to see if he could find traces of the Ferrying Calamity sect's yellow paper figures here again. Unfortunately, the temporary effect brought about by destroying the paper figure was gone. Li Fan examined it for a long time, but couldn't find where those hidden talisman papers were hidden. Although out of sight, out of mind, there's always a knot in my heart. Li Fan frowned secretly. While he was thinking, a figure suddenly appeared from the horizon, covering 1,000 miles in an instant. The next moment, the figure appeared in front of Li Fan. Unlike the previous contact person, the one who came to negotiate this time was a righteous and scholarly-looking young cultivator. Strangely, this scholar was carrying a stone slab on his back. The writing on it seemed to be obscured by some kind of power, making it impossible to see the content clearly. Greetings to the 2 fellow Taoists from the United Association. The scholar greeted with a gentle tone. Unable to see through his cultivation level, Li Fan's heart tightened, not daring to be negligent. This fellow Taoist looks unfamiliar. Where's the previous one? During a sudden attack by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance some time ago, he unfortunately died. The scholar said faintly, but his face didn't show any sadness. Not knowing whether it was true or false, Li Fan didn't care about the matter. He immediately put on a solemn expression and got straight to the point. This time, our Myriad Realms United Association has come to seek help. The scholar's face then revealed a hint of surprise. However, he reacted quickly. Although it was a transaction before, we did indeed benefit greatly. If there are any difficulties, please speak freely. Li Fan glanced left and right, then set up a formation to isolate the myriad worlds. Then, lowering his voice, he quietly said, "Not long ago, an elder of our United Association, after emerging from closed-door cultivation, suddenly discovered something that shocked him greatly. This Xuanwang world is actually filled with one-eyed little men made of yellow talisman paper. Not only the Xuanwang main world, but even the surrounding small worlds are full of these things. The feeling of being watched at all times is really terrible. But we have tried many methods, all of which have failed to eliminate these talisman papers. May I ask, fellow Taoist, do you have any good strategies?" While Li Fan spoke slowly, he observed the other party's reaction. When he saw that the scholar didn't have any special reaction to the saying of the talisman paper little men, Li Fan knew this person's identity must be not simple, and he should have known about the existence of the Ferrying Calamity sect's talisman papers long ago. The scholar with the stone slab on his back said with a serious face, "There are indeed many methods that can clean up these talisman papers. However, the price is a bit high. I don't recommend you do this. Moreover, the stone slab behind the scholar emitted a faint blue light. He paused, and added, "These world-viewing divine Isa have almost integrated into the basic laws of the Xuanwang world. If they are all cleaned up, it will inevitably cause immeasurable harm to the Xuanwang world." At this point, the scholar's meaning was already very clear. Li Fan couldn't help but frown. "Speaking of which, your 5 old ones also have many old members of the Immortal Tao 10 sects from back then. Does no one have any objections to the Ferrying Calamity sect being so disgusting?" 872. Stone slabs condense the years. The stone slab scholar stared at Li Fan for a while, seemingly surprised. After a moment, he spoke, his tone strange. Even if you still harbor resentment, what's the point of arguing with a dead man? Li Fan was slightly taken aback. The former Due sect has long ceased to exist, the stone slab scholar said with some emotion. The world-observing divine eyes are merely executing their last orders. The Due sect is gone. Li Fan was shocked upon hearing this news. Seeing Li Fan's incredulous expression, the stone slab scholar smiled slightly and nodded to confirm, absolutely. Deader than dead. Could it be a smokescreen to avoid disaster? The imaginary enemy he had always assumed, the old schemer hiding behind the scenes. To think they had already been completely annihilated. For a moment, Li Fan, unable to accept that he had actually been fighting against air, still asked, unwilling to give up. The stone slab scholar smiled faintly, the celestial venerable of Dharma transmission personally took action. There was no way the Due sect could have survived. This was a universally acknowledged fact among the various sects back then. But your Myriad Worlds Association is relatively young, so it's normal not to know. Li Fan fell silent upon hearing this. After the celestial venerable of Dharma transmission achieved eternal life by defying the principles of heaven and earth, he rarely took action. Eradicating the Due sect was one of the few times. Even fleeing beyond the realms didn't save them from their demise, the stone slab scholar said with some emotion. Although the perpetrator is dead, the damage caused is irreversible. We can only allow the world-observing divine eyes to remain. Fortunately, these things are hard to notice if you don't pay attention. So everyone simply turns a blind eye. Besides, in at most 10,000 years, these paper figures will dissipate on their own due to the passage of time. So everyone doesn't take them to heart. The scholar explained very seriously. Li Fan understood what was going on. It was still the same analogy as before, comparing the Xuanwang realm to a house. After defying the principles of heaven and earth, the celestial venerable of Dharma transmission became part of the house. But due to a moment of carelessness, the house was actually filled with surveillance cameras. There were cameras everywhere, and they weren't aesthetically pleasing. Most importantly, when these surveillance cameras were installed, they were all connected to the main structure of the house. If they were to be removed, it would inevitably cause irreversible damage to the house. Already wandering between life and death outside the immortal ruins. The cultivators within the Xuanwang realm couldn't bear this consequence. So even if they were unwilling, they could only grit their teeth and accept this fact. Filled with anger, the celestial venerable of Dharma transmission, who considered himself the owner of the house, personally took action and killed the Due sect who installed the surveillance cameras. Li Fan, having sorted everything out, fell silent. Why exactly did the Due sect do this? A trace of nostalgia flashed in the stone slab scholar's eyes. Those guys were always talking nonsense. Who knows what was in their heads? However, what is certain is that they should have foreseen the consequences that this might bring. Yet they still insisted on doing so. Actually, I'm also very curious, the scholar said with a smile. Unfortunately, the deceased are gone. Perhaps this mystery will never be revealed. Li Fan's expression was solemn. Judging from his words and various actions since his appearance. This scholar was definitely a powerful cultivator who had survived from ancient times. May I ask for your name, senior? Li Fan asked, cupping his hands. The scholar didn't hide it. Among the 10 immortal sects, the one without a name, that's me. Li Fan's heart trembled. In the past, when searching for information on the 10 immortal sects, no matter how hard he searched, he could only find the names of 9 sects. The remaining one had no records. Li Fan had once thought that the 10 immortal sects were just a conventional term. Or perhaps, one sect had already become extinct. He never expected that he would be able to see the most mysterious, nameless last sect today. Moreover, the words of this stone slab scholar were also very intriguing. The one without a name among the 10 sects, that's Maya A. Like senior sister Zhao, one person is one sect. Even though the scholar in front of him seemed harmless, Li Fan's vigilance was at its highest. This was possibly the second eternal realm expert he had truly encountered. The stone slab scholar shook his head slightly, seeing Li Fan's apprehensive appearance. No need to be so nervous. I don't care about the conflicts between the Five Old Ones Association and the Myriad Immortals Alliance. I'm not even that interested in the survival or destruction of the Xuanwang realm. If one day, the Xuanwang realm is really destroyed, then I will definitely be the first to applaud. The scholar seemed to imply something. The scholar looked at the stone slab behind him, his expression somewhat complicated. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to be lying and hadn't shown any malice, Li Fan's courage grew. Senior, this stone slab In ancient times, cultivators mostly used ruamu fruits to steal the power of heaven and earth for longevity. However, I accidentally obtained this stone slab. Thus, I was able to exist with heaven and earth, immortal for countless years. The scholar's tone was full of vicissitudes and exhaustion. This thing is called the creation stone slab. Everything that happens in the Xuanwang realm, no matter how small, will automatically appear on this stone slab in detail. The world considers it a treasure and wants to take it from me. I can't wait for them to do so, but no one can take it. Fellow Taoist of the association, would you like to try? The scholar asked very sincerely. Li Fan's heart trembled. Everything in the Xuanwang realm would automatically appear and be recorded. Wouldn't that be the ultimate fusion and enhanced version of the bloodline history book in the world observing divine eyes? If he could obtain it, all the secrets of the past and present would be in his grasp. What kind of fortune would that be? Li Fan's mouth suddenly went dry. However, he still had some rationality. Faced with the scholar's question, Li Fan didn't dare to act rashly and shook his head repeatedly. The stone slab scholar was somewhat disappointed and explained, my words are not false. There's really no harm in trying. Although the other party spoke very sincerely, Li Fan still refused to listen. The scholar shook his head somewhat lonely, not forcing him. People these days are getting more and more timid. Li Fan closed his eyes, pretending not to hear. After a while, seeing that the other party no longer mentioned the matter, he asked again, Senior, with your status, why would you suddenly have the whim to come and contact me? The stone slab scholar stared at Li Fan, a hint of a smile flashing in his eyes. I came specifically for you. Li Fan's heart tightened. Senior, don't scare me. How could a small nascent soul cultivator like me catch your eye? The creation stone slab, although it can record everything in the world. But some things are beyond the world, the stone slab scholar said loudly. 873. Break the Xuanwang world. As the stone slab scholar spoke, Li Fan's heart was filled with extreme tension. However, the current Grand Preceptor Li had already attained Tao integration battle strength, further enhanced by numerous great divine abilities like the seven-colored jade void glaze. He wouldn't be easily intimidated by a few words from others into revealing the truth. Not even if the other party was the eternal celestial Venerable. Li Fan decided to probe the other party's background further. Thus, Li Fan feigned confusion and surprise. Beyond the Xuanwang world. What does that have to do with me? The stone slab scholar smiled. Since you refuse to admit it, let us see what the stone slab records about you. Behind him, the stone slab surged with a burst of cyan light. An aura of ancient times emanated from the scholar. Various images began to surround and manifest around them. It was as if they had fallen into the river of history, with scenes of the past events in the Xuanwang world unfolding like scrolls. The scholar grunted, his body beginning to expand. His face and clothes changed rapidly and repeatedly for some reason. One moment he was a handsome scholar, the next a robust woodcutter. Then he was a charming and beautiful woman. Sometimes he wasn't even human. But a tree, a flower. Birds in the sky, beasts on the ground. Only the stone slab behind him remained unchanged, its cyan light eternal. Eventually, the images on the surrounding light screen gradually stabilized. The fluorescent light shone brightly, and what appeared on it was Li Fan. However, there were no scenes of him flying out of the Great Zon. Not even the scene of him entering the Xuanwang world through the spatial channel and heading straight to the Heavenly Sun Grotto to subdue Heavenly Sun was shown. It only showed him entering Shilin province with Heavenly Sun. Finding the entrance to the Spirit Wood world. Entering and then emerging again, and then capturing Shangtianxi in Nine Mountains province. In the underground of Taihua province, he found Mr. Bai's secret chamber. After returning to the Spirit Wood world, he brought Lin Ling, who had Tao integration strength, out with him. First, He completed a transaction with the Five Old Ones Association, and then went straight to the Five Elements Grand Grotto Heaven in Spirit Origin Province. The images continued to change. However, Li Fan's vigilance relaxed considerably. It's just as I thought. The creation stone slab automatically records everything that happens in the Xuanwang world in great detail. But only the original Xuanwang world. You must know that the current Xuanwang world is formed by the fusion of the Xuanwang main world, countless grotto heavens, small worlds, and even fragments of many other cultivation worlds. The creation stone slab may not have any records of these outsiders. It's like comparing it to a house. The original Xuanwang world was just a single small house. But after so many years of expansion by countless cultivators, the Xuanwang world has become much larger than before. The creation stone slab, which was born with the heavens and earth in the original small house, had complete recording authority. But for these foreign lands, the creation stone slab has lost its ability to record. The images continued to change. As Li Fan expected, they were intermittent. Most importantly, the Kongyan Sea, Spirit Wood World, and Five Elements Grand Grotto Heaven, where he often frequented, were not within the scope of the record. So, basically, it was all scenes of him hurrying, constantly hurrying. Then what the scholar said, that he came for me. Where did I leave an opening? Li Fan's mind raced. The images presented by the stone slab were about to approach the current timeline. Suddenly, his clone, Ji Shaoli, appeared in the picture. The moment he entered Yongyan Province, the picture suddenly stopped. Then, after Ji Shaoli left Yongyan Province, he went straight to the Spirit Wood World. The picture suddenly dimmed, and then Li Fan advanced to the nascent soul stage and came out of the Spirit Wood World, wielding the seven-colored divine light and flying quickly between the provinces. Did the seven-colored divine light attract his attention? Li Fan couldn't help but think. And what the stone slab scholar said next confirmed his guess. I don't really care about the authenticity of that myriad worlds union. What I'm more interested in is where you obtained this seven-colored divine light from Yongyan Province, the scholar said, looking at Li Fan with a burning gaze. The energy level of this thing cannot be nurtured in the remnant provinces. Can't it be a divine ability that I comprehended myself? Li Fan retorted. The scholar chuckled. I possess the creation stone slab, and I am naturally very familiar with the aura emanating from your seven-colored radiance. That is the power of nearly condensing a world's heavenly Tao. If you had such ability, then the one asking questions here today would not be me. But you, the scholar said indifferently. Although there was no sarcasm in his tone, it still made Li Fan snort coldly when combined with his expression and tone. Seeing that Li Fan didn't answer, the stone slab scholar continued. Don't worry, I won't take your things. This seven-colored divine light is strong, but it's just a burden to me. What I really want to know is the place that nurtured the seven-colored divine light, the stone slab scholar said frankly. Li Fan narrowed his eyes. What does senior mean by this? How do you know that the seven-colored divine light was produced by something? Couldn't it just be a single treasure hidden in Yongyan Province? The stone slab scholar sighed. The surrounding light screen suddenly turned pitch black. Then, a point of seven-colored light suddenly appeared. In the darkness, it was incomparably dazzling and conspicuous. The scholar looked at Li Fan. Do you understand? Such treasures, as long as they exist in the world, whether they have been refined by someone or not, are like this. Once, some people thoroughly searched the Xuanwang world. Apart from that heavenly Zon mirror, there are no treasures above the level of world artifacts in the world today. So, your seven-colored divine light must have just appeared not long ago. Li Fan's expression turned ugly upon hearing this. He didn't expect that although the seven-colored divine light was strong, it was so conspicuous in the eyes of true experts. Facing the stone slab scholar's inquiry, Li Fan's mind raced, thinking about how to answer. After a moment, he had a plan. He put on a troubled look, and after struggling a lot, finally sighed. Well, I knew this matter couldn't be hidden after all. Senior, come with me, and you will know when you see it. Saying that, he woke up Lin Ling, who had been in a daze and watching from the side, not daring to interrupt. Then he drilled into the ground and went straight to Yongyan Province. In the earth veins, the stone slab scholar followed leisurely, neither too fast nor too slow. Li Fan was secretly amazed at this scene. But then he thought, no wonder in the previous life, Zhang Shintong didn't keep guarding the fishing pond even though he had such a treasure. Instead, he would wander around. It must be that after he left Yongyan Province and revealed the seven-colored divine light, he was discovered by this stone slab scholar, which led the other party to come to his door. And he was forced to lose ownership of the treasure. That was careless. 874. Those who seek liberation. I'm afraid that a small foundation establishment cultivator like Zhang Shintong was able to keep a treasure like the 7-colored jade void glaze light for himself without being snatched away by others because he handed over the fishing pond and gained protection. Li Fan felt a sense of regret in his heart. Originally, he shouldn't have overlooked this point. But first, he happily obtained a supreme treasure, and then he successfully broke through, which made him a little complacent. So he ignored this strange point. But it's not a bad thing. At least, I know that this 7-colored divine light cannot be used easily. And it has drawn out this big shot. Li Fan inconspicuously looked towards the stone slab scholar behind him. In the surging earth vein, the scholar walked as if he were an ordinary person, unhurriedly. And the earth vein ancient tree, which usually attacks cultivators who break into it, didn't show any signs of movement at this moment. It was very calm. Even Lin Ling's calls were ignored. Li Fan cursed inwardly and ordered Lin Ling to continue on their way. At the same time, 9 Mountains State, the previous rendezvous point. Not long after Li Fan and the scholar left together, a cultivator dressed in the attire of the 5 old ones arrived late. After waiting for a long time, he didn't see anyone appear. He couldn't help but feel bewildered. Yongyan State. In the small temple in the mountains, outside the fishing pond. Senior, please take a look. Li Fan respectfully pointed to the small pond in front and said. Because Ji Shaoli had notified him in advance before coming, Zhang Shintong already knew that someone would come. He looked at the stone slab scholar and Li Fan, not daring to breathe loudly. He protected Luli behind him, desperately holding down her head, which wanted to stick out and see what was going on. The stone slab scholar sized it up with great interest for a long time. It's just an ordinary little panda. Could it be that there is some mystery? The scholar became interested. Li Fan signaled Zhang Shintong to come forward and demonstrate. Today's chances have already been used up, Zhang Shintong said helplessly. Seeing this, Li Fan had no choice but to take the lead himself. He sat upright by the pond, properly dressed. He cast his rod and fished. The next moment, a strange color erupted in the stone slab scholar's eyes. When Li Fan reeled back his rod and returned, and he took the white ball of light in his hand and examined it, he suddenly understood. So that's how it is. He couldn't wait to step forward, wanting to try it out himself. Li Fan was about to speak out to remind him of the correct way to use the fishing pond. But he saw the stone slab scholar pondered for a moment, and then his figure blurred, but he directly changed his appearance. Li Fan was also very familiar with the owner of that appearance. It was the crazy fisherman. It's just that the fish basket behind him was replaced by a heavy cyan stone slab. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. This scholar is not my original appearance. But it is my imitation of that member of the 5 old ones. Fisherman smiled, humming something in his mouth, and threw out his rod. Looking at his expression and posture, there was almost no difference from a real fisherman. Li Fan's heart sank. After the previous encounters, he couldn't help but feel a little contempt for this eternal life realm expert. After all, the monitoring function of the creation stone slab only works in some areas. And this person didn't see his origins, and like ordinary cultivators, he was full of joy when he saw the supreme treasure fishing pond. Invisibly, it lowered his level a lot. But now it seems this person is also very deeply hidden. Although he didn't achieve Tao through defying the heavens, he should not be underestimated. Li Fan stood aside, not daring to act rashly. Zhang Shintong was completely like a statue, his expression and body frozen. Only Lin Ling and Luli, the 2 brave ones, quietly stared at the stone slab fisherman. The fisherman's first fishing process was particularly long. And he seemed to be very immersed in this fishing process. Until more than half a day later, he was still sitting still. So much so that Li Fan suspected that he had already failed, but he was still pretending. However, with a brilliant golden light reappearing in the small temple in the mountains, Li Fan's doubts quickly disappeared without a trace. Looking at the golden ball of light in the stone slab fisherman's hand, Li Fan couldn't help but doubt his life a little. And Zhang Shintong was also dumbfounded, unable to believe his eyes at all. The stone slab fisherman stared at the ball of light for a while. Emperor of Heaven Chi Scripturia. Achieve the Emperor of the world, condense the luck of all living beings and dynasties. You can become an expert comparable to the eternal life realm without cultivation. It's really boring to only think about fighting and killing all day long. The stone slab fisherman was bored. Here you go. Saying that, he casually threw the golden ball of light towards Li Fan and the others. Although Zhang Shintong also wanted to reach out and catch it, he still didn't dare to be presumptuous under Li Fan's vaguely murderous gaze. After taking the golden ball of light, Li Fan quickly checked it. The content inside was consistent with what the stone slab fisherman said. It was a unique cultivation method circulating in a world without spiritual energy. It is also ingenious. It's just a pity that if you want to condense luck into the scale in the classics, you have to work hard for hundreds of years and more than 10 generations. A chicken rib, Li Fan commented with some regret, but he still solemnly put it in the storage ring. Looking at the stone slab fisherman, seeing that the other party was still fishing, Li Fan couldn't help but say, "Senior, this fishing pond only has one chance a day." The stone slab fisherman yawned, "I know. But I'm just purely fishing." Li Fan couldn't help but be stunned. The stone slab fisherman seemed to really enjoy the process of fishing. And he didn't care whether he could catch a ball of light magic weapon. Compared with Zhang Shintong and Li Fan, he was like a real angler. "From now on, I will live here. You don't have to be nervous, just pretend I don't exist. I don't want anything I catch. Give it all to you." The stone slab fisherman suddenly said. He had expected it in his heart, but even if the other party said so, how could Li Fan ignore such an eternal life realm expert? "Senior, could it be that you want to find something useful from this fishing pond?" The stone slab fisherman didn't seem to have any malice. Li Fan asked boldly. The stone slab fisherman's answer was also very straightforward, "Yes. In the Xuanwang realm, there is nothing that can remove the stone slab behind me. Perhaps it exists in this fishing pond." This answer caught Li Fan a little off guard, and he couldn't help but fall into silence. And Zhang Shintong and Luli looked curiously at the ancient stone slab behind the other party. "It's too tiring. It's too painful," the stone slab fisherman sighed while fishing. "The things that happen in the Xuanwang realm every moment. Even if you don't want to know, you can't control it from appearing in your mind. Do you think it's a good thing?" The stone slab fisherman shook his head repeatedly. "In the beginning, I tried to split my head open directly. But if the stone slab doesn't die, I won't die. Even if I'm just a skeleton, the memories will still appear in my mind." 875. 1,000 years from the beginning. The words of the stone slab fisherman turned both Luli and Lin Ling pale with fright. Li Fan's expression was also grave. To be forced to accept countless pieces of information every moment, every second, and to be unable to die even if you wished to. That was indeed an extremely painful thing. If we can really find a way to sever the connection between the stone slab and Senior from this fishing pond, will Senior die? After a moment of silence in the small temple, Li Fan mustered his courage and asked. The stone slab fisherman chuckled softly, still facing the pond, and said in a faint voice, "I'm just too tired of living and want to live a little easier. It's not that I don't want to live anymore." Li Fan understood. After the stone slab fisherman finished speaking, he closed his eyes, as if not wanting to be disturbed. So Li Fan brought Zhang Shintong and Luli into the small temple. "Senior, who is that?" Zhang Shintong asked uneasily. "Knowing too much is not good for you. Just be careful to serve him. Even if that person only gives you a few pointers, it will be a great opportunity for you," Li Fan said coldly. Zhang Shintong nodded hastily. Li Fan then looked at Lin Ling. "From now on, you will be responsible for collecting whatever Senior fishes up. I will come to collect them periodically." Lin Ling naturally agreed. Finally, Li Fan turned his gaze to little Luli. This little Luli had a mysterious origin. She was fished out of the fishing pond by Zhang Shintong and transformed from a transparent fruit. A creation of the golden light level was at least above the Tao integration stage and should not be underestimated. However, her true nature was still unclear. But Li Fan had ways to handle a naive little Taoist. With a kind expression, Li Fan gently instructed Luli that the stone slab fisherman Senior was a great person and that she didn't need to be afraid of him. She could even accompany him fishing when she had nothing else to do. Little Luli didn't dare to answer, only nodding blankly. With Senior Stone Slab here to guard the fishing pond, it can be considered a blessing in disguise, Li Fan thought to himself. Li Fan appeared very helpless about the leak of information regarding the fishing pond. But in his heart, he didn't care at all. To him, the only secret that could not be coveted by outsiders. was only a returning to Trutha. If the existence of a returning to Trutha were to be exposed, then even if the current situation seemed peaceful, he would immediately return to Trutha. That was Li Fan's bottom line. The stone slab fisherman sat by the small pond, fishing all night. He remained motionless, like a statue. The next day, when he raised his rod again, he only fished up a white ball of light, which surprised Li Fan somewhat. As long as they take the bait, they are all good fish. In my eyes, there is no difference. Moreover, the grade of something that can help me sever the ties with the creation stone slab may not necessarily be very high. The stone slab fisherman explained lazily. But it was better not to explain at all. Since it concerned the other party's deepest secret, Li Fan didn't ask any further questions. Instead, he turned to the other party to ask for advice on how to conceal the seven-colored divine light. After all, the seven-colored jade void flowing light was too extraordinary. It integrated offense, defense, and escape, and it would be a waste if it couldn't be used at will. The stone slab fisherman was silent for a moment. As if he was thinking. It's not like there's no way, he gave the answer after a moment. The reason why I could see through the seven-colored divine light at a glance is because its unique fluctuations are too conspicuous, like the only beam of light in the darkness. But if the user of the seven-colored divine light, which is you, can emit fluctuations that are no weaker than the seven-colored divine light, you can suppress its traces. Just like how a beam of light naturally dissolves into the environment during the day. Li Fan was speechless when he heard this. To be on the same level as the seven-colored divine light, which was refined using the origin of the heavenly light of the immortal cultivation world as a raw material, would at least require being above the Tao integration stage, right? If he had that kind of strength, would he still need to hide it? As if seeing what Li Fan was thinking, the stone slab fisherman turned his head and glanced at him. It might not work for others, but you are different. Li Fan's heart tightened again. Didn't you break through to the nascent soul realm after swallowing the five elements primordial cave Hevna? That thing can actually barely be considered half an immortal cultivation world. The stone slab fisherman's words made Li Fan slightly stunned. Don't think that every immortal cultivation world is like the Xuanwang realm. In ancient times, among the many lower realms, Xuanwang was definitely considered one of the larger ones. Not to mention now, if you can unleash all the power of the five elements primordial cave heaven, below the longevity realm, even if you're not invincible, you'll be unbeatable, the stone slab fisherman said indifferently. Although he had expected this in his heart, Li Fan still looked ecstatic. The secret methods of the A1 beginning secta back then, who would have thought that thousands of years later, a golden core junior would pick the peaches, the stone slab fisherman seemed to have remembered something, and let out bursts of low laughter. Li Fan looked on with curiosity, and the stone slab fisherman explained without minding. When the great calamity first arrived, each sect had its own means of dealing with it. This one beginning sect found the root of the Xuanwang heaven and earth and forcibly catalyzed the five elements cave heaven with secret methods. According to their explanation, the heavenly Tao of the Xuanwang realm had already been eroded and reversed, and it was impossible to turn the tide. It would be better to abandon it directly, extract its essence, and use the five elements cave heaven as a prototype to derive a new world within it. It's like a mother giving birth to a fetus. The idea was good, but unfortunately, people were still trying to survive. Let alone the heavenly Tao. The stone slab fisherman sneered. The operation had just begun when someone came to their door and was forced to stop it. Although he was very curious about who had stopped the one beginning sect's plan, Li Fan had to suppress his curiosity when he saw that the other party didn't intend to say. After saying so much, the stone slab fisherman seemed a little tired. He closed his eyes again. Li Fan, who was good at observing people, decisively retreated. The third day, the stone slab fisherman fished up a purple ball of light. Instead of throwing it directly to Lin Ling, he looked at it with great interest. What's wrong, senior? Li Fan hurriedly stepped forward and asked. The stone slab fisherman didn't answer, but seemed to have discovered something extremely interesting. He stared at the pond in front of him in a daze. Motionless. As if he had been petrified, it lasted for a full 7 days. During these 7 days, Li Fan also never left. Following the stone slab fisherman's line of sight, he also learned to look over, attempting to comprehend the reason why the other party was suddenly attracted. The result was obvious, but even though he couldn't see anything, Li Fan still put on a thoughtful expression. You saw it too. After an unknown amount of time, On this evening, the stone slab fisherman suddenly woke up from his silence. This junior is dull and couldn't see any mysteries, Li Fan said truthfully. I only feel that this fishing pond has endless mysteries and may be of great benefit to me. This nonsense made the stone slab fisherman nod in agreement. 876. Li Fan devises a brilliant plan. Indeed, I misjudged it before as well. I originally thought that the items in this fishing pond had been placed there 1,000 years ago when it was first forged. But this thing I fished up last time was not a creation from that time at all. It's something from within the last 500 years. The stone slab fisherman unfolded his palm, revealing a curved black jade object resembling a horn. This Isa Li Fan didn't recognize it. A horn of conquest. An invention of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Blowing it can briefly invoke the power of the heavenly Tao of a province, the stone slab fisherman stated succinctly. 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan was first stunned, and then his expression changed slightly. He turned his head to look at the fishing pond, his mind instantly filled with surging thoughts. Understood. The items in this fishing pond are not static. Instead, it captures new objects from the outside world, not just from Xuanwang, but even from other cultivation realms. While we are fishing in the starry sky, it is also fishing the heavens. The stone slab fisherman's words confirmed the guess in Li Fan's heart. Like a monstrous wave, it made his mind unable to calm down for a long time. Even though he had personally experienced the mystique of the fishing pond, he didn't expect that he still didn't know its full extent. Is this the power of immortal artifacts? Not only does it contain thousands of treasures, but you don't have to worry about them being used up. This is what Li Fan thought. However, the stone slab fisherman was concerned about other things. His usually calm tone couldn't help but ripple slightly. This is the true Tao of fishing. This immortal artifact is not simple. If I can master it, maybe I can fish the heavens myself without relying on it, and find what I want. The stone slab fisherman's voice was somewhat excited. Li Fan couldn't help but remain silent. He then realized. How could the person chosen by a wondrous item like the creation stone slab to possess be an ordinary person? Having made a new discovery, the stone slab fisherman stopped fishing. At the same time, he changed his appearance. No longer in the form of a fisherman, but as a newborn baby. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep by the pond. After waiting for a few more days and seeing no sign of waking up, Li Fan shook his head and retreated. Even with senior stone slab's comprehension, it probably won't be a matter of a moment to understand the Tao of fishing. And he's occupying the fishing pond, no one dares to disturb him. Li Fan felt helpless in his heart. He had to instruct Lin Ling to wait here and contact him if there was any movement. Li Fan returned to the Spirit Wood realm alone. At this time, he received a message from the Five Old Ones Association. Even the Five Old Ones Association's contact was fake. This senior stone slab is really committed to acting. Recalling the other party's tone and expression before, he secretly shook his head. Perhaps this is one of his bad habits. Fortunately, he has a good temper. He didn't want to kill me at the slightest disagreement. These days, following senior stone slab, in addition to learning some ancient secrets, the most important thing was to understand the essence of the conflict between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Old Ones Association in the Xuanwang realm. Li Fan recalled the other party's exclamation. The Xuanwang realm is a ship about to sink. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Old Ones Association are fighting for the ultimate control of the ship. They all have absolute confidence that they can free the Xuanwang realm from its sinking fate. But the prerequisite is that a final leader must be chosen. Just like the 10 immortal sects of many years ago. It's not that they are blinded by power, but to escape, they must coordinate and concentrate the power of the entire realm. If there are internal traitors so, fighting and killing doesn't matter. Once the existence of the Xuanwang realm is really threatened, the two sides will still join forces. Just like the return of that group of traitors 500 years ago. When the stone slab fisherman mentioned that group of traitors, his tone rarely became fierce. 500 years ago, it should refer to the counterattack of the small worlds. However, these small worlds seem to be just puppets. The real masterminds should be the cultivators who once betrayed the Xuanwang realm. In the spirit wood realm, Li Fan combined the stone slab fisherman's words with the secrets he had previously investigated, and he seemed to be lost in thought. Is expected of the bearer of the creation stone slab, he knows too many secrets. It's just a pity that his strength is not enough. How much you want to know all depends on the other party's mood to give. Otherwise, I would definitely interrogate him day and night. Li Fan's thoughts slowly turned. From Senior Stone Slab's perspective, many things that Li Fan couldn't see clearly and seemed to be in a fog became clear and understandable. At that time, after hearing the other parties' discussion on the struggle between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Old Ones Association, Li Fan couldn't help but ask, then what is the attitude of the transmission of law Heavenly Venerate towards all of this? The stone slab fisherman seemed to have heard a very funny joke. He first laughed loudly to himself. Then he replied, transmission of law. Although Xuanwang is sinking can the transmission of law fly? He doesn't care at all. Buddha The stone slab fisherman's smile suddenly disappeared. This is just my speculation. In fact, for the transmission of law Heavenly Venerate who regards the Xuanwang realm as his private property. His attitude is also somewhat uncertain. Otherwise, he could have left long ago. The stone slab fisherman's voice gradually weakened, and finally became inaudible. The transmission of law can fly. Sure enough, he can already ignore the influence of the immortal ruins and leave on his own. Li Fan thought to himself. I wonder, what level of strength must be reached to escape Xuanwang? Perhaps I can try it. This idea suddenly emerged in Li Fan's mind. Although in the Xuanwang realm, none of the Eternal Life realm experts besides the transmission of law Heavenly Venerate had escaped. But Xuanwang's eternal life is bound to the world. It is possible that it is not that their strength is not enough, but the backlash caused by the bond. Just like Senior Stone Slab. Moreover, it is not necessary to rely entirely on one's own strength. You can also use external force. Li Fan remembered the countless obelisks erected on the land of Xuanwang in his 114th life. I achieved the nascent soul with the 5 elements primordial cave heaven. If I combine the 5 elements into one and melt them into a new world. Then build obelisks on the earth and use thrust it may not be impossible to escape the Xuanwang realm. In fact, Li Fan, who has returning to truth, does not intend to fight to the death with the Xuanwang realm. If possible, finding another cultivation world is definitely much better than being in this ghost place. After all, in the Xuanwang realm, which is on the verge of sinking, it is not strange no matter what happens. Along the way, Li Fan has also encountered too many demons and ghosts. One attempt, two-pronged approach. Li Fan secretly calculated in his heart. 877. The Brilliant Road. To escape the sinking ship that is the Xuanwang world, corresponding technical reserves are naturally essential. Li Fan alone obviously couldn't achieve this. Only by drawing on the existing achievements of the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Council, and then innovating on that basis, is there a chance to break the situation. I wonder how the Immortal Chosen One plan is progressing. Even if the Myriad Immortals Alliance had ulterior motives from the start, they are still the highly anticipated Immortal Chosen Ones and the hope of the Alliance before the truth is revealed. They should be able to play a role as internal support. Thinking this, Li Fan replied to the 5 Elders Council. He didn't reveal the existence of Senior Stone Slab, but claimed that he had received an urgent notice and that the meeting was at risk of exposure, so it was forced to be cancelled. As for the problem, it must be on the 5 Elders Council's side. Li Fan also asked them to investigate carefully, insisting that they must have been infiltrated by spies from the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Although it was just a random fabrication, Li Fan didn't care. Spies, as long as you investigate, you're bound to find some. Temporarily putting aside the affairs of the 5 Elders Council, Li Fan calmed his mind and focused his consciousness on the 5 elements primordial cave heaven within his body. Before, he thought that this 5 elements cave heaven was naturally evolved by the Xuanwang world, so there was nothing to fear. But now, having learned from Senior Stone Slab that this was the work of the One Origin sect thousands of years ago, with Li Fan's cautious nature, he would definitely have to examine it carefully again. Fortunately, it was just a false alarm for Li Fan. After careful identification, there were no remnants of the One Origin sect's mark within the 5 elements Grand Cave Heaven. This made Li Fan feel slightly relieved. After all, the Xuanwang world is dangerous, and any subtle potential threat must be treated with caution. Now that the nascent soul is formed, the next step is to look forward to the transformation God stage. The transformation of heaven and earth. Li Fan's mind instantly recalled the scene from his 115th life, when Mr. Bai roamed the Xuanwang lands, integrating the Xuanwang transformation into his own cave heaven. Thanks to Mr. Bai, Li Fan was thoroughly familiar with almost all available transformations of heaven and earth within the Xuanwang world for the next 100 years. With the sitting immortal art and the constant feedback of cultivation provided to me by the members of the Myriad Worlds Union, I hardly need to worry about the accumulation process of cultivation. The only thing worth worrying about is the existence of the calamity of heaven. And how exactly to harmoniously accommodate several different transformations of heaven and earth. After achieving the nascent soul with the 5 elements grand cave heaven, ordinary methods of transformation God were no longer in Li Fan's eyes. Even ordinary spirits of heaven and earth were of little interest to Li Fan. Too weak. It's not that Li Fan's mentality has expanded. But the fact is so. Although he has not yet exerted his full strength, the boundless power within his body originating from the 5 elements cave heaven has already far exceeded the scope of ordinary nascent soul cultivators. In the foundation establishment stage, he could rely on various means to fight nascent soul cultivators to the point of mutual destruction. Now that his strength has expanded countless times, crushing ordinary nascent souls is not much more difficult than crushing an ant. In addition, he also has the 5 elements Nirvana sword, the 7-colored jade void luster, and even the chaos word incantation. Spirits of heaven and earth like Crimson Flame and Black Marsh are definitely not his opponents either. Only existences at the level of Mo Sha would make Li Fan feel slightly a. However, it should not be a big problem to be able to retreat completely in front of him. The nascent soul stage is already like this, so how could Li Fan be willing to take the ordinary transformation God or Tao integration route? Like Mr. Bai, taking the Xuanwang transformations of heaven and earth, integrating all into oneself. Transforming the nascent soul cave heaven into an internal world. Then, falsely transfer many spirits of heaven and earth, and greatly steal the Xuanwang world's source power. This is the most ideal method of expanding strength. Let's not consider for the time being whether doing so can be an opponent to the one who spreads the law. Li Fan believes that if he can really reach that point, at the very least, he will never be at a disadvantage against ordinary eternal celestial sovereigns. Moreover, if I can really find a way to escape the Xuanwang world, my cultivation in other immortal cultivation worlds, within the same realm, will definitely be unrivaled. Xuanwang world cultivators devour the heavens and eat the earth. They are already several times more powerful than conventional cultivation methods. And Li Fan is even several times stronger than ordinary new law cultivators. Compared to each other, it is definitely even more crushing. However, although the ideal is good, but a problem lies in front of Li Fan, which needs to be solved urgently. Mr. Bai is faintly the incarnation of the heavenly Tao's will. Taking the transformations of heaven and earth and the spirits of heaven and earth is like taking his own things to use. Naturally, he will not encounter any resistance. But who is Li Fan? Why would the Xuanwang world's heavenly Tao allow him to do this? Ordinary cultivators practicing the new law have already incurred the jealousy of heaven and earth. If he really does what Li Fan envisions, it is almost tantamount to peeling skin and extracting bones, scraping bones and sucking marrow. It is simply the Xuanwang heavenly Tao's mortal enemy. In a situation where the whole world is the enemy, how can he transform the transformations of heaven and earth and the spirits of heaven and earth into his own use? Even if he can forcibly absorb one or two, the result of the riot is inevitable. Unless Li Fan's eyes flickered. For the well-informed Grand Preceptor Li, this is not an unsolvable problem. Almost instantly, he thought of a countermeasure. The Xuanwang heavenly Tao is so hostile to cultivators because cultivators want to cultivate, they must seize resources from the Xuanwang world. As long as this point does not change, the contradiction between the two sides will never be alleviated. But now, the Xuanwang world is at an absolute disadvantage in the struggle. This gives Li Fan a possible opportunity. That is to re-stand in line and choose to stand on the side of the Xuanwang heavenly Tao. Li Fan vaguely remembered that when he brought Qian Hong's bones back to the Xuanwang world from Dazan, the fall omen, which should have appeared once at the time of death. But it appeared again for no reason. And after Li Fan finished doing all this, he only felt that some special changes seemed to have occurred on his body. At that time, he could not quite understand the meaning of this. But after so many years, after reading the secret scriptures of the immortal cultivation world, Li Fan already knew the reason for this. In the Xuanwang world, although such things are rare, they have happened before. There are cultivators who, although forced to practice the new law due to the change of the principles of heaven and earth. But in his career, the whole is beneficial to heaven and earth. For example, helping to slaughter new law cultivators and accelerate the process of returning the Tao to heaven. Although in the eyes of cultivators, this kind of person is an out-and-out demon cultivator. Whether it is the Myriad Immortals Alliance or the Five Elders Council, they are all subject to strict crackdowns. But in the eyes of heaven and earth, this is indeed a good person. A good cultivator standing on the side of heaven and earth. Of course, this is just an extreme example. In addition to slaughtering cultivators, filling the gaps in the incompleteness of heaven and earth, or helping the spirits of heaven and earth to complete their duties. These can increase the favor of heaven and earth. After the favorability reaches a certain level, when the cultivator falls, heaven and earth will still descend an omen. But it is not gloating. 878. The deep space is hidden and deep. That scene of falling was somewhat similar to when Lan Yu faked his death. Heaven and earth mourned together. It wasn't just helping heaven and earth. Helping these cultivators, whom heaven and earth regarded as allies, would still increase the favorability of the Xuanwang heavenly Tao. From a rational perspective, in the Xuanwang realm, being a lackey of the heavenly Tao would absolutely not end well. They would only be suppressed to death by the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Council. No cultivator with a normal mind would make such a choice. But with the help of returning to truth, Li Fan could do so without any worries. Because Li Fan wasn't genuinely planning to be the Xuanwang heavenly Tao's enforcer. He just needed to gain its trust. If I'm helping you, you have to lend me some strength, right? After all, the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Council are not easy opponents. As long as he could successfully trick the Xuanwang heavenly Tao into giving him some of its remaining power, Li Fan's goal would be achieved. As for making him genuinely fight the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Council, that was naturally impossible. Once returning to truth, Li Fan owed no one anything. It's just that how to gradually gain the trust of the Xuanwang heavenly Tao still requires careful consideration. This is absolutely forbidden content. There are no records to reference. I can only try cautiously myself. Speaking of which, me instigating the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Council to fight should also count, right? Li Fan suddenly raised his head, his gaze seemingly piercing through the spiritual wood realm and reaching the sky of the Xuanwang realm. No, working silently and diligently won't get you recognized by your superior. If you make a contribution and the higher-ups don't know, it's as good as not making one. Perhaps I can reach the heavenly audience through Senior Stone Slab. An idea immediately formed in Li Fan's mind. Many of his schemes were completed while hiding in small worlds, the Kongyan Sea, and other places. The Xuanwang heavenly Tao might not be aware. In the future, he could visit Senior Stone Slab more often and report any achievements, no matter how small. This would not only make him familiar to Senior Stone Slab but also gain the favor of heaven and earth. No, if I do it myself, it might be a bit too deliberate. I can leave it to Lin Ling. The image of Lin Ling's naturally dazed look appeared before him, and Li Fan couldn't help but nod inwardly. In a brief moment of thought, he planned out his two future paths. Li Fan called Tian Yang over. He had been staying in the spiritual wood realm for the past while, helping Sheng Tianxi and Yang Daozi build the headquarters of the alliance. Even though he had been constantly busy, Li Fan still noticed that Tian Yang's strength had significantly increased compared to when he first achieved Dao integration. Little junior brother, let's spar a bit, Li Fan said with a pleasant expression. Tian Yang looked at Li Fan with some suspicion, then looked at his own fist. Then he slowly shook his head. He seemed afraid of hurting Li Fan. Li Fan chuckled, revealing a bit of the aura of the Five Elements' Great Cave Heaven. Tian Yang's eyes immediately lit up. He grinned, seemingly happy about Li Fan's great improvement in strength. Don't worry, little junior brother. My current combat power is not weaker than yours. This sentence stirred Tian Yang's competitive spirit. He immediately became eager to try. Li Fan looked around the spiritual wood realm, at the Alliance headquarters complex that had finally begun to take shape after much effort. Although the spiritual wood realm is not small, it cannot withstand the impact of our battle. With a thought, Li Fan instantly thought of a suitable place. Follow me. Leaving the spiritual wood realm, the two, one after another, traversed the 4 continents and arrived within the borders of the current Langwan continent. This continent concealed a small world called Sol Yin. In the 115th cycle, among the many small worlds explored by the myriad Immortals Alliance, this Sol Yin world was a very special one. For some unknown reason, all the mortals who migrated into this world at that time had perished. Only countless ghostly spiritual shadows, similar to soul bodies, drifted between heaven and earth. And these soul bodies seemed to be related to the power of space. They were actually a great tonic for the rift whale. After the rift whale pods accidentally discovered the existence of the Sol Yin world, they would come to hunt from time to time. And after these soul bodies disappeared, they would be naturally regenerated by heaven and earth. They became the natural and best food source for the rift whales. Therefore, among all the small worlds where rift whales existed, the rift whale population in this Sol Yin world was the most prosperous. With the rift whales constantly opening spatial passages day and night, the Sol Yin world was also the furthest from the Xuanwang realm. In the 115th cycle, the Immortal Alliance team that went to explore it directly lost contact. We originally thought they met with misfortune, but we didn't expect the distance to be too great, rendering even ordinary communication methods ineffective. The vast void space is perfect for me and Tianyong to fight to our heart's content. Thinking this, Li Fan found the entrance to the Sol Yin world. After setting up formations around it to conceal it, Li Fan flew in first. A feeling of deep darkness and profundity instantly surged over him. It was completely different from the feeling of flying through the spatial passages leading to Dali and Dakshuan. A strange, oppressive atmosphere surged in Li Fan's heart. Even the usually somewhat slow Tianyong rarely showed a solemn expression. This feeling, Li Fan narrowed his eyes, carefully experiencing it. After a long time, he seemed to realize, it's like a mortal being in the deep sea. Is it because of the great distance from the Xuanwang realm? The information collected before didn't mention this. No wonder no one has seen the members of that exploration team since they returned. It seems that traversing the endless void is not as easy as I imagined. Li Fan pondered for a long time, temporarily suppressing these thoughts. He continued to fly along the spatial passage for half a day. Feeling that they were far enough, he stopped. "Little junior brother, please make your move," Li Fan said in a deep voice. Tianyong nodded, and without a word, a pressure manifested. He revealed his red and black interwebbed heaven and earth soul body. Li Fan instantly felt as if the space around him was completely locked down. His limbs also felt as if they were tied with heavy shackles, unable to move. So this is the power of space. Li Fan knew that this was his little junior brother Tianyong holding back. Otherwise, if the power of space acted directly on his body, it could instantly tear Li Fan into pieces. "Little junior brother, I told you, go all out." Without trying to break free from the spatial shackles, Li Fan's face sank, and he said seriously. Tianyong was stunned. Subsequently, Li Fan only felt the space around him becoming increasingly profound. It was like being bitten by an invisible monster. Li Fan's head, hands, and feet instantly disappeared into the darkness. Only his bare torso remained, floating somewhat helplessly in the air. If it were an ancient cultivator, at this moment, they would already be dead and their Tao extinguished. But for a new method cultivator of the devouring cave heaven, it was merely an insignificant minor injury. Bang! Li Fan's torso instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. His voice, however, echoed like thunder in the void space around Tianyong. "Little junior brother, it's my turn now." 879. The infinite law begins to appear. With Li Fan's explosive shout, a giant, tens of times larger than the heavenly sun puppet from before, suddenly appeared in the deep, dark void. It was none other than Li Fan's Yuan Ying Dharma idol, conjured with the nearly endless 5 elements cave heaven source power. If it appeared in the Xuanwang world, this giant would be tall enough to prop up the sky and attract the attention of cultivators worldwide. Behind the giant's head, the faint phantoms of the 5 great cave heavens emerged, like 5 interconnected rings, setting off Li Fan's Dharma idol as incomparably sacred. Compared to this giant, the size of the heavenly sun was almost insignificant, like an ant. Suppress. The giant looked down, extended the index finger of his right hand, and pressed down fiercely on the heavenly sun. The finger covered the sky, as if the heavens were collapsing. The fingerprints on it were like circles of imprisoning runes, about to suppress the heavenly sun in an instant. Having tasted for the first time what he looked like in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, the heavenly son did not panic in the face of the giant's soaring strike. The clothes on his body moved without wind, and a wonderful bending occurred in the space around him. The space bent like layers of waves, spreading outward from the heavenly sun as the origin. As it continued to advance, the heavenly son's figure became increasingly blurred. After a moment, he had completely disappeared from the field. Li Fan's index finger crushed down, but hit nothing. Interesting. I used the power of the 5 elements, coupled with an array that seals space, but still couldn't stop you from escaping. Li Fan's Dharma idol spoke with a booming voice, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. He wanted to find the heavenly sun's trace. But the heavenly sun seemed to have completely evaporated from the world, without revealing even a trace of aura fluctuation. Little junior brother, don't. Li Fan had only said half a sentence when the heavenly sun appeared without warning, like a ghost, suddenly in front of the Dharma idol's head. Appearing out of thin air, he pointed remotely at the Dharma idol's brow. Like a drop of water falling into a calm pond, the Dharma idol's head showed a strange distortion. Then it shattered with a bang. The heavenly sun was about to withdraw his hand. But the Dharma idol, whose head was shattered all over the ground, was not affected at all. His hands quickly joined together in front of him, his 10 fingers bent and stretched, forming a cage. The energy fragments of the head, as if possessing spirituality, quickly approached. Outside the finger cage, it instantly transformed into an array. The heavenly sun was slightly stunned. Because he found that within this array, not only could he not break through space to escape, but even that space-folding technique he had just cast had lost its effect. It was clearly effective before, but in the instant after the exchange, Li Fan found a way to break it with an array. What a genius this was! Before the heavenly sun could think further, layers upon layers of array phantoms appeared continuously outside the 10-finger cage. As if there was no limit at all, in just the time it took to breathe, the power of these arrays stacked together had already expanded to the point where even the heavenly sun in the Tao harmonization realm had to be moved. Of course, the price was that Li Fan's Yuan Ying Dharma idol also shrank in an instant, like a punctured balloon. Feeling the crisis around him that could explode at any time, the heavenly sun dared not move. Li Fan's figure appeared not far away, smugly. How is it, little junior brother? Are you convinced? The heavenly sun nodded sullenly. Ha ha, Li Fan didn't make things difficult for the heavenly sun any further, a blue light flashed in his eyes. Then he gently pointed towards the location of the heavenly sun. In an instant, the vast array, which was so complex that it was beyond comprehension in the heavenly sun's eyes, was broken by Li Fan with a wave of his hand. I haven't used my real skills yet. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good to hurt you. Looking at the heavenly sun's somewhat unconvinced appearance, Li Fan couldn't help but emphasize. Also. The heavenly sun uttered these 3 words with some difficulty. He looked at Li Fan again and took the initiative to request another battle. Hey, unexpectedly, Li Fan just waved his hand and refused. Sparring should be enough to stop. Are we, brothers, really going to fight to the death? No more fighting, no more fighting, Li Fan said with a smile. The heavenly sun was helpless, but he couldn't force it. Speaking of which, little junior brother, your power is also related to space. Not far ahead, there is a small world. It is full of a kind of spiritual body, which may be helpful to you. Li Fan introduced the relevant situation of the Soul Yin realm to the heavenly sun. Although the heavenly sun had already reached the Tao harmonization realm, apart from the power of the laws contained in the heaven and earth soul, his knowledge was actually not much different from that of a body integration foundation establishment cultivator 1,000 years ago. Naturally, he couldn't make heads or tails of such strange things. However, he always listened to Li Fan's words. So the two of them continued to go deeper along the space channel. This place was already far away from the Xuanwang main world, and Li Fan no longer had any scruples. The 7-colored divine light cut through the sky, traveling tens of thousands of miles in an instant. The heavenly sun, who was proficient in the power of space, could also shrink the ground to an inch, closely following behind. Even though the two of them were so fast, the length of this space channel still exceeded their imagination. According to Li Fan's calculations, it took them almost a month before they faintly sensed the rift whale swarm ahead. Li Fan stopped. Looking into the distance, he saw countless rift whales, like a whale sea. They were opening up the way forward in the void in groups. And this was only what was revealed on the outside. In the dark void, He didn't know how many rift whales actually existed. The vast overall aura emitted by the rift whale group made Li Fan's expression slightly change. It has already reached the extreme point of quantitative change leading to qualitative change. How can there be so many? Li Fan couldn't help but turn his head to look at the Soul Yin realm hidden not far away. Let's go. Turning into a rainbow light, Li Fan descended into this small world in a moment. Hiss. As soon as he landed, Li Fan couldn't help but frown. This place was too cold. Even the spiritual power in his body showed a tendency to be frozen. The power of the 5 elements flowed, and Li Fan wanted to resist the severe cold here by transforming his spiritual power into fire attributes. But at the moment he did so, a terrifying force of ice coldness emerged from Li Fan's body for no reason. He instantly turned into an ice sculpture, and then, as an unknown yin wind blew past, he turned into countless ice particles, scattered all over the ground. After a moment, a fluctuation, Li Fan's body reappeared. Strange. His face showed an interested expression. Just now, what appeared with the fire attribute power in his body was not heat, but extreme cold. This coldness did not come from the outside, but was the characteristic inherent in the fire attribute here. Senior brother, something is wrong here. The heavenly son also rarely said a complete sentence very coherently. His face was serious. It's like something is gnawing at my ability around me. But I can't find them. The heavenly son then expressed his discovery through voice transmission. 880. The starry sky destroys the world. A. Devouring your ability. A. Li Fan couldn't help but be startled upon hearing this. The ability Tian Yang spoke of was naturally the power of space originating from the heaven and earth soul inkstone. It was formed by the Xuanwang laws, and once absorbed by cultivators through the new method. Even in the current Xuanwang realm, there was no way to strip it away. Yet, in this strange, remote small world, it could be devoured. A senior brother, don't worry. To me, those unknown existences are like ants crawling all over me. A. Perhaps it will hurt or itch, but it won't threaten my life. A. Tian Yang transmitted a scene, briefly expressing his meaning. Li Fan, however, did not let his guard down. This Soul Yin realm was clearly different from what the 115th generation Immortal Alliance expedition team had detected. Becoming vigilant, Li Fan and Tian Yang began exploring this Soul Yin realm. This small world was not vast, its area wasn't even as large as the Spirit Wood realm. But strangely, Li Fan didn't find the spiritual entities described by the Immortal Alliance expedition team. The broad earth was dim and gloomy, without any topographical undulations. It was entirely composed of gray soil. Not to mention plants and animals, there wasn't even a single complete stone. Scanning the Soul Yin realm with his divine sense, Li Fan found that apart from himself and Tian Yang, there were no other beings. Li Fan's expression turned solemn as he picked up some of the gray soil from the ground and examined it carefully. It seemed to be ordinary soil. But looking at his hand, which had only been in contact with it for a moment, and the burn-like marks, Li Fan knew that this was definitely not ordinary. No pain. The corrosion is silent. Li Fan's eyes flickered. A surge of vitality welled up from within him, attempting to restore the injuries on his hand. But to Li Fan's surprise, the injected vitality seemed to become nourishment for the scorched area. The black spots on his hand quickly expanded, showing a tendency to spread throughout his body. Li Fan decisively cut off his hand. And what happened next made Li Fan's pupils shrink. The flesh and blood hand, after falling on the gray soil, faded in color and turned to ash, like the embers after a fire. Then, it merged with the soil. What exactly is this? Looking at the gray soil all over the world, Li Fan was horrified. The strangeness of this place was somewhat beyond Li Fan's imagination. Just as he was considering leaving, Tian Yang suddenly transmitted a message. Senior brother, the strength of the devouring seems to vary in different places around here. Perhaps we can identify where the anomaly is by the strength of the force. Li Fan hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement. With Li Fan's approval, Tian Yang sensed the surroundings while flying quickly in the sky above the Soul Yin realm. Soon, he locked onto a location. The power of devouring others seemed extremely strong. Li Fan faintly felt a trace of inexplicable fluctuation from Tian Yang. It was as if Tian Yang was engaged in a fierce battle with an evenly matched opponent. After only a moment, Tian Yang had to leave. It's like 10,000 ants gnawing at my body. Senior brother, can't you feel it? Tian Yang asked via transmission. Li Fan shook his head, simply controlling the 7-colored divine light and flying towards that location. Indeed, he didn't feel anything unusual. But Li Fan had a faint premonition in his heart that if he used fire attribute spiritual power again like before, the consequences would probably be more than just his body freezing into a sculpture. Therefore, Li Fan suppressed all the spiritual energy within his body. He only acted with the power of his physical body and the 7-colored divine light. Arriving above the target location, Li Fan carefully observed, trying to find useful clues. He really did notice something wrong. As previously investigated, the entire Soul Yin realm was absolutely flat. But that location seemed to be slightly raised. It was as if something was buried under the gray soil. This time, Li Fan had experience. With the 7-colored divine light protecting his right hand, he dug into the soil. Digging down continuously, suddenly, Li Fan touched a hard object. With a solemn expression, he picked it up from the depths of the gray soil. The surface sediment of gray soil disappeared on its own shortly after leaving the ground. The hard object thus revealed its true appearance. This is. Li Fan was a little stunned. The thing in his hand was actually a human skull. But unlike ordinary people, this skull had a third eye at the center of its brow. There was a cavity about the size of an eye socket. Moreover, the skullcap naturally had gold and black patterns. Li Fan turned the skull over to examine it, but was horrified to find that the inside of the skull was like it had mold. Gray spots, one after another, were shocking. Moreover, these gray spots seemed to have their own consciousness. After being dormant for who knows how many years, when they sensed the presence of living people around them, they immediately wriggled strangely. They looked as if they were exploring the surroundings. An indescribable sense of crisis suddenly surged from Li Fan's heart. He unleashed streams of 7-colored divine light, forming a perfect seal, isolating Li Fan's aura. Those gray mold spots then calmed down again. Looking at the strange skull inside the 7-colored light sphere, Li Fan frowned slightly. 3 eyes on the head, like a human, but different. Clearly not someone from the Xuanwang realm. The cause of the Soul Yin realm's disaster seems to be that gray mold. Could it be that it was because this outsider brought the gray mold here that this place was transformed into a gray domain? And this instigator, because of the gray mold's erosion, didn't even leave behind a complete corpse. It was only because of the black and gold runes engraved on the skull that it was able to be preserved. A possible answer appeared in Li Fan's mind. This place is the most remote from the Xuanwang realm, and may have reached the range that other cultivation realms can reach. This 3-eyed one is from this cultivation realm. Coming here, was it to escape? But he brought this terrifying gray mold with him. Scenes appeared before Li Fan's eyes. Li Fan discovered that the 7-colored divine light was not enough to completely resist the power of this gray mold. Even just sealing it, Li Fan still felt the 7-colored divine light being constantly consumed. If it weren't for the continuous power replenishment from the 5 elements cave heaven, the seal would have been broken long ago. After pondering for a moment, Li Fan didn't put the skull back where it was. Instead, he tried to store it with a storage ring. Somewhat surprisingly, it was exceptionally smooth. Without the slightest obstruction, it was stored inside. And observing through the storage ring, Li Fan found that the gray mold was still not in a static state. Not only was it consuming the power of the 7-colored divine light, but even the space of the storage ring was beginning to become unstable.